void year, move some of that cap hit to next year to lessen the cap hit this year? Do they do that? Is that more of kicking the can down the road? I don't know what they'll do with that. The Jalen Moore contract is out, so we have some more information on that, which makes it an even better deal in my mind for Jalen Moore. I went and watched all of the pass reps from Jalen Moore. I know that run blocking is a big deal. It's an issue that the Chiefs, we would like them to do it more often. So by wanting them to say, hey, maybe invest in the running game a little bit just to take some of that pressure off of Patrick Mahomes, and then to say, it doesn't matter what Jalen Moore really did as a run blocker. It only matters as a pass blocker. But let's be honest, that's first and foremost what we're talking about, because the $500 million man that's in the backfield is the one you have to protect. If you aren't the best run blocker, I'll take that exchange if he's an awesome pass blocker. So went and watched the 4 games that he started. Didn't pay much attention to the Bills game because it was a blizzard, and everybody was on the snap tippy-toeing. You're not going to get a good pass rep against Greg Rousseau, which sucks because I wanted to see him against Greg Rousseau, because quite frankly, the other 3 games that he went up against, they were more power rushers, and he didn't really have a problem with that. The one thing I saw last night was...
So Orlando Brown Jr.
I mean, there's a little bit of that. There's some other things. And by the way, Seth Kaiser has a really interesting piece that he put together at his website at Substack with the Chief in the North newsletter that's out there. If you don't subscribe to that, I'm not sure what you're doing if you're a Chiefs fan. But he went and watched every single rep from Jalen Brown and then wrote his extended breakdown of it, the pros, the cons, and then the verdict of what he sees from Jalen Brown. And I was kind of proud of myself that we saw the same things in watching it. And so I want to talk about that as to what the Chiefs are getting, which I think is different than some of the tackles that they have had. And we'll get into that a little bit, but we also know what that contract structure is. Trey Smith, we didn't even mention it, but we'll get into it and what it may mean in signing the franchise tag, and how that is that an indication of where they are in their negotiations. Laramie Tunsil was traded for a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They got a 4th round back, so a 2nd, 3rd, and 5th, and I guess a 7th as well in different years. So it's not all in one draft class. It's mixed between this draft class and next draft class. So the Houston Texans looked at it and said, we gave up 9 sacks to the Kansas City Chiefs. What if we took our starting left tackle and starting guard and traded them both? Because they traded their guard to the Philadelphia Eagles for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right?
Yes, correct.
C.J.G. whatever it is.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, I thought I had it right. So they traded him. I should know it since they've played him twice in the Super Bowl. But they traded him. They traded for him and traded a guard. So they've lost a starting left tackle and a starting guard from that offensive line. Now, you can say, well, they were awful with those guys, so why not revamp the whole thing? Maybe break it all down and start over with the money you can save with Laramie Tunsil. He's 31 years old. They feel like his best days are behind him. And with a deflated left tackle market, when Dan Brown is getting the most money for a left tackle in this free agency period, more than a Ronnie Stanley, and we don't think there is a bona fide, true number 1 left tackle shut down, put him on the left side, you are good to go in this draft. This may have been the absolute perfect time to maximize Laramie Tunsil's value to a team that was tackle needy, and you can get maybe more value out of him because they don't see an answer right now. And do they want to wait another year, which will be then a 32-year-old Laramie Tunsil, so they get a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th rounder and save that cap number from Laramie Tunsil. But now they're in the position that the Chiefs are in at guard. It's like, well, you traded Tooney, well, now you got to find a guard. Okay, you traded Tunsil, you got this value. Well, now you have to find a tackle in this market that got the value for trading Laramie Tunsil. You are now in the position of the team you just traded that pick to or that player to in not having an answer there.
I love this move for Washington. I thought this was a phenomenal move for the Commanders. The Texans, I get what you're saying if you think he's on the decline. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's probably not the same guy he was 2 years ago, but he still had the 4th best pass blocking grade of any tackle. 4th best. Is he the best left tackle in football? No. Is he still top 5? I think the answer is yes. He's probably that 4 or 5, maybe 6 range, but I think he's probably that 4 or 5 range. The Commanders, this makes so much sense with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, the rookie contract, all that stuff. The Texans went all in last year. The Texans made a whole bunch of moves, brought in Danielle Hunter, Danico Autry, a whole bunch of veterans, and it didn't quite go the way they thought. So I don't know if they're thinking that, hey, we came a little too close to the sun when C.J. Stroud was a rookie. We went all in. We maybe should have half gone in instead of full in. So this might be them pulling back a little bit to try and, again, rebuild and retool this thing for some sustainability instead of just a one-year all-in period.
Well, it feels like the Commanders are doing that now because they trade for Laramie Tunsil. They signed Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah.
They trade for Deebo Samuel.
Well, this is why I was so excited about the Texans last year because they went all in. I thought last year made a lot of sense. I didn't know what it was going to look like in the future, but that year it didn't work out for them. The Commanders are trying that move. Again, they exceeded expectations last year, but they also had a real big issue, defense and offensive line. They were able to get a whole bunch of offensive production out of some middling wide receivers for the most part because Jane Daniels was so good. But the same thing happened with C.J. Stroud with Houston, right? It was Nico Collins. Tank Dell was still injured a lot the year prior, but that defense wasn't great. The offensive line wasn't great, and so they rebuilt those things. Didn't work for them. Washington's basically saying it didn't work for them, but maybe it'll work for us. Yeah. I still like the move for Washington overall, though.
Yeah, so Washington, to acquire Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel, they traded a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, and a seventh, and got back a fourth. So that's for both Deebo. Deebo was a fifth rounder.
Sure.
So they traded a 2025 third and seventh, and then a second and fourth in 2026 for Tunsil, and then a fifth rounder this year. So second, third, fourth, fifth, and a seventh, and you got a fourth back for Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, and then you'll pay them, which the Commanders have cap space.
Laramie, though, still has 2 years technically left on his contract. I know he's going to want a new contract.
I would guess that he would probably say, now it's time to, you just traded for me, you gave up all that. This is the most bargaining power I will have.
100%.
You're not going to trade. I didn't ask to be traded here, so I'm going to sit out unless you give me the new contract. And I think the Commanders would probably go into that eyes wide open, right?
I would assume
that's probably going to be the case.
They would acquiesce. I'm just saying, if they wanted to play hardball, they do have 2 years left of a $24 million a season, which at this point, $25 million for Laramie Tunsil seems like a steal.
Not bad.
And if you want to play hardball, you still have the franchise tag too. So you could have Laramie for 3 years if you say, hey, Laramie, we know what you want. We understand you can play hardball. We can too. We have you for 3 seasons if we want to. Again, he's basically part of the reason why the franchise tag number is the way it is. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
He and Trent Williams are pretty big deals as to why the offensive line, why it was that way for Trey Smith.
Yes.
913-912-4810. We'll talk some college basketball today as well, as the Big 12 tournament is going on today, and you can come join Sports Radio 810 WHB and Miller Lite for the Miller Lite Fan Fest, presented by Sports Radio 810, live at the KC Live block at the Power and Light District for the men's Big 12 basketball tournament. We're hanging out here at the 810 studios inside McFadden's. This is all featuring team pep rallies, watch parties, contests, live music, great food, cold Miller Lite, a beautiful day today. So make your plans. If you don't have a team, like, look, Missouri fans, just come down and hang out and just enjoy the surroundings and enjoy being around college basketball. This is such an awesome place, and I think Kansas City would be a fantastic spot to host a Final Four if and when they get that dome built on the Kansas side for the Kansas City Chiefs, because these events that people wrap their arms around, and it's the Big 12 tournament should never leave Kansas City.
Utah fans are trying their hardest, but Utah fans they got a dome. But Utah fans are about to realize why KC is so special and so good for hosting these events.
Why is it Utah fans that are the ones that keep being the most vocal about not wanting to come to Kansas City and being mad about it not being in Vegas? Like, why is it Utah?
The team with a bad basketball team and a bad football team?
Yeah, but also like
the throw-in in the Big 12?
Utah, which is clearly known for the party boys, right? They want to go to Vegas. They're mad about being in Kansas. Like, we should be in Vegas. I get it. You want to leave Utah and just show out, right? You're going to rebel. It's like, you know, as a child, you start to
rebel. Is that Rumspringa?
That's right. It's not Coachella, Utah. Okay, it's just Vegas. All right? It's like, you as a child, you rebel against your parents. And I guess Utah's like, we wanted to go to Vegas. We could rebel finally. That whole time, they won't see us in Vegas. This is great. Oh, we go to Kansas City. Oh, no, it's awesome. and they'll find out why this is well, the Vegas Strip is right there. Oh, cool, neat.
I've been
go
to
be
both.
bored, like go do all that stuff and go lose all your money and do the same generic thing that people have done for years. How about enjoy college basketball?
Yes.
In a college basketball area that is one of the top cities in college basketball every single year. Look at the ratings for the NCAA tournament, and then ESPN puts out their college basketball ratings. Every year, it's the same 3 cities that show up in the top 3. It's always Louisville, Raleigh-Durham, Kansas City. Every year, the top 3.
The Yum Center, baby.
I mean, right. I mean, but you got Louisville and Kentucky,
Yeah.
that you got that being basketball-centric, and then North Carolina being basketball-centric, and then Kansas City right here. The top 3 every single year. And that's a place that you complain about. Anyway, don't want to worry about those people.
How about
Let's enjoy this.
So you know what? I will throw out an offering to Utah fans.
Okay.
If there's any Utah fans listening that are coming down to the Big 12 tournament, I will crack open and drink with you a ice cold Miller Lite.
I don't know if they're able to. Championship week
That
on
was
Sports
nice
Radio
of me.
810 WHB, brought to you by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, River Bluff Brewery, and Church of the Resurrection. It gets underway today. The Big 12 tournament coming up at 11:30. It is Cincinnati and Mick Schaefer's Oklahoma State Peter Pokes that'll be playing some basketball. You think he's going to be over there at the T-Mobile? He's going to be across the street watching Oklahoma State play basketball against Cincinnati?
Do you think
he's
going to wear the pop guns in like holsters and everything, the cowboy boots?
I hope so.
You think he's going to dress up, maybe a fake mustache on him
Assless
too?
chaps, the whole 9, dressing up like Pistol Pete.
You
Peter
wish
Poke.
Jack Caglione rocked those.
No, not at all. I'm just saying the man can wear Alex. Jack Caglione can wear a uniform, right? I mean, he said, sure, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. She went out to dinner.
The 22-year-old girl is like, yeah, I guess. And
went to dinner with
the 40-year-old man is like, put those pants on, Jack.
I went to dinner with some friends last night, and they were joking about our conversation that continues to come up about Jack Caglione. I'm like, look, the man, he's wearing Garrett Hampson's pants. I don't care what anybody says. But we'll see if Mick's going to be hanging out over there at T-Mobile for Oklahoma State. But tonight, 6 o'clock on ESPN+. Arizona State and Kansas State. Let's go Wildcats, get the job done, because then tomorrow we can have one of the – I'd have to go back and look in history when the last time the Big 12 tournament on the same day where you had Iowa State, Kansas State, and Kansas all playing that particular day, and none of them, by the way, are only one of those teams had to win a game to play on that particular day, because you always get buys, right? There's always that top 4 seeds and everything. But we get 3 of the 4 games. And it's not just not playing each other, which sometimes that's awesome too. But 3 of the 4 games are going to include Iowa State, Kansas State, and Kansas. And obviously we include Iowa State because Cyclone fans come down and take over this area. They can be a testament to Utah fans about how awesome this area is to host college basketball and what the Big 12 tournament is here in Kansas City and how awesome it is and why it should not go anywhere. And hopefully they get that extension done through 2031 and just continue to extend it every year, because Kansas City is one of the best places for a conference tournament. Nashville's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. Obviously, you guys know my feelings about Nashville. I think it's the most overrated city.
It's me with Vegas.
Overpriced city in the world. But for hosting a conference tournament, it's pretty awesome because everybody, on the main street there with all the bars are just packed with everybody wearing their college gear. Yeah. And that's pretty awesome that's why I love San Antonio for the Final Four, man.
Because
the
whole
whole
weather,
city.
though.
Yes.
Yeah, great, because you never know.
Week,
and I get that in KC. I mean, we've been here before when it's, 20 degrees and you're frozen.
3 weeks ago.
And then today it's 70 and sunny. I mean, this is just an absolutely phenomenal day
gorgeous
for some college basketball with the setup too outside.
Yes, absolutely gorgeous. The Sunshine State. It is beautiful today. So come down and see us, even if you don't have a team in action. Make some plans to be down here. You can also see Sterling on stage this afternoon and the rest of the week as well. Stephen St. John will be holding down court up on stage. Some other personalities will be up there, and also Sterling. Will be up there as well. No, he's a personality too. Stop, people.
And not
Stop.
the whole week, because I'll be going to a bachelor party.
What? When are you bachelor partying it up? Is the bachelor party here?
It's in Louisville, actually. I'm going to your stomping grounds. Going to Georgetown.
bachelor party capital of the world.
Georgetown, Kentucky.
Oh, where are you
baby.
going for the bachelor party, man? You going like a South Padre? You going to head to like one of the
Yeah,
beaches? You
baby.
going to head to Vegas? What are you going to do? Reno? A little Atlantic City? Where are you heading, man? Where are you? Oh, I can't wait to hear about this. Where are you going?
Little Georgetown, Kentucky.
Oh, hell. Okay.
They
All
got
right.
they got golf.
And they're the only place that has golf.
We're playing at the University of Kentucky, Big Blue, that golf course, and we'll be drinking a whole bunch of bourbon because we're going to
When are you coming back?
Sunday night.
Okay.
So I'm leaving Wednesday night.
I'm gonna say you might have crossed over with the family since they may be heading
They're
there
going too. Actually,
they may
it's
be
weird.
heading-
My boy
son of
my boy Cody invited your family to the bachelor party.
Why did my wife agree to go to your bachelor party? That seems weird. I have many questions that I'll ask you off the air about how that happened, and a couple phone calls that I'm gonna.
But
have
Buffalo
to
Trace and
Are you guys doing the
Woodford
bourbon tour and
Distillery,
everything
yeah,
too?
Yeah. So
Nah, that's cool, man. So you will be gone Thursday and Friday.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wow.
What are you gonna do? No show? Maybe just
Thinking about just canceling.
just canceling probably.
Yeah. Dylan, can we just play some best of Thursday and Friday? That'd be cool. I'll just go hang out over at T-Mobile.
Yeah,
on Thursday and
I'll
Friday.
get ESPN on, and we'll just have we'll take a couple days as well because there's
Can
no
you just
show
play
to even
Stephen A.
have.
Smith for? Can you play Stephen A. Smith for 4 hours? Because that would
Yes.
give everybody at the station that's been here for a long time flashbacks of when I did my first afternoon show over on the FM side when it went from the Planet to then us playing ESPN all day over there
Yeah.
before the deal to sell that FM station. And when I was doing before I moved to Louisville, I would do an afternoon show from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. I don't know. I can't remember which one it was. But it was like, all right, let's fill some time here. Which is, hey, Jason, you want to do that? We need to fill some time.
So Jordan versus LeBron.
We need to do an hour there. Just go do an hour.
What are the Cowboys doing?
The first show I did, I'm there in the FM studio, and I'm, doing my open. I'm talking and everything, and people keep coming by and looking in. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. Just checking in. That's like, that's fine. I go to break. And they go, how'd you do, man? How was your first segment? I was like, oh, I thought it was pretty good. They're like, oh, cool. Because Kansas City heard Stephen A. Smith because you never took it out of satellite. So, I did the whole first segment for myself.
Wow.
Which is my favorite sports radio show, though.
Was it your best
It was
first
some of the
segment
best
too?
work
Probably
I've ever
Yeah.
done, ever. So maybe we do that for Thursday and Friday. But yeah, we got the Big 12 tournament going on here in Kansas City, the SEC tournament going on, and that starts tomorrow. That is at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. So a couple of cool places to go and watch a conference tournament. So we'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. Les Norman at noon. Breaking the norm, we start our conversations with Les. Some Royals baseball activity coming up at noon. They play a 3 o'clock game this afternoon. Do the Kansas City Royals. So we'll get his thoughts on, I don't know, Jack Caglione maybe Jonathan India, maybe some Chris Bubich, maybe some Daniel Lynch. CJ
Daniel Lynch, by the way, has been absolutely dealing.
Yeah, he's been awesome. I don't know why I was going to call him CJ. I don't know where I was going with CJ. But Cole Reagans throws 4 innings today. This is the first next step, if that makes sense. So you get out there, throw an inning, a couple innings, you start to get loose, and then when you get to 4 innings, now it's ramp-up time. So now I think we see the 4-inning work from these pitchers. It's like, all right, now you're trying to hone in on what you're going to be doing come opening day. Because just getting used to it, getting out in the mix, getting the arm loose and everything for a couple of innings, working in your pitches. Like Seth Lugo gave up 3 runs in 2 innings, and he was like, "No, I felt good. I was throwing all my pitches." I'm like, you give up 3 runs in 2 innings, he's going to be pissed in the regular season, right? But in spring training, it's not a big deal. Well, now I do wonder how much, and we'll talk with Les about this, how much do these starts for these pitchers now that you get into this is your first day of slated to throw at least 4 innings for Cole Reagans. Now starting to get in a groove a little bit because opening day, a few weeks away, and Cole Reagans is going to be on the bump there for opening day. So I think it's a marker through spring training that tells us that we're not in the early stages of just like, oh, it's cool, we're seeing him play some baseball. It's like, no, now's the ramp up. Now's the ramp up for opening day. This is like, preseason game number 2 or 3 in the NFL for these pitchers now that you're going 4 innings and a little bit more as you get ready for the start of the baseball season.
I think my favorite thing to talk about less with is MJ Melendez. Because
Let's do
MJ has, because we know Les's thoughts on MJ's swing more or less with the head movement.
He was a big fan of all of the movement with his swing and everything he was doing just randomly. It felt like in a big leg kick, head movement, arms down, then arms up.
He's a vibe guy.
Woo,
MJ Melendez was a big vibe guy.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited because I want to get Les's thoughts on just the change of MJ and how difficult is it? Is it sustainable? Because so far, I know it's a tiny sample size. Take a drink. I'll do you. Pause. I will do what you normally say, which is, dang
easily.
it, Dylan. I know.
Sterling is trying to get a few in under the buzzer before that bracket comes out.
No,
He's trying to win. Sterling is trying to go on a run and win a
Does
win
he
a
have like
conference
one
championship.
team? Like, is he just one seed or 2 seed? That's kind of what I'm feeling like.
That was actually an
I don't want to
that
look,
one
Jason. I have
was-
the ability to look, and I'm kind of. It's like Christmas where I know where the presents are. I don't want to go find the
Dylan,
presents. I'm trying to be
let's just
surprised.
say, by the way, that was at my grandma's house.
Yeah,
she hid them
right,
in the
same.
same closet every year,
Yep.
and the cousins would always go over there and look through and try to guess who got what. Every year, that's what we
That's
did.
no fun.
And then act surprised. What?
Yep.
Are you serious, Grandma? What are the odds of that? I did not see that coming. Now, I've already bought accessories for this thing. I had no idea that I was going to get this, but this is really cool. You are onto something there. It's kind of like we know Auburn's going to be a 1 seed.
I'm kind of like the Joe Lenardi right now, is what you're saying. Of
That's,
the bracket ascent.
I would say that there is already a number of not hours, but close to at least one that is work that has been put into what is easily a 1 seed in the tournament.
Perfect.
I didn't mean. Okay, that was actually on accident.
And that might have made as I don't know one of the players on the 1 seed. That might have.
It's just too bad there's
joined
not
in
like a UConn or Purdue this year, because
to go far.
Just-
MJ,
yeah.
okay, I'll leave it here. MJ's been really good in spring training.
Great.
It's been a small sample size, which is something that typically Jason always
I'm going
says.
to take a drink because you said
So
that.
yeah, that's what I was trying to get at was you take a drink because I'm pulling a you.
I just did it.
I am pulling a Jason.
There you go.
But MJ is OPSing over 1,000. He's slugging 2 triples. Strikeout numbers are still not great, right? Still at that 33%.
Slugging 2 triples.
Slugging over 1,000. He has 2 triples.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2 home runs, a double.
Yeah.
Strikeout numbers though are still a little high, but again,
He's working on stuff.
he's working on stuff.
When he strikes out, he's just working through.
Was it Brian Goodwin that was doing that? And they said you can work through things. He was like 0 for 51 in spring training, and they sent him to the Angels, and he hit like 280 that year.
I don't
Anyone remember that?
at all.
Dylan, do you remember that?
I don't remember that, to be honest with you. I don't.
Nah, I
That'd be
can't-
a
I can't.
Jack
I'm trying
Johnson
to-
question, probably.
Yeah, that would be a Jack question, actually.
It'd be a Rainey Gisarelli question, but Rainey would be like, yes, actually, it was
If that was the
Chris Godwin,
NFL,
he had that,
Sterling, I'd probably know. Like, if it was the NFL, that'd
Okay.
probably
That
be
is
a
that-
great
you know what?
lob to me.
That's true. If there's a Chris Godwin version of the
Brian
NFL.
Goodwin. Did he play for the Royals? Is that who I was
You know what?
thinking of?
You know who the Chris Godwin version of the NFL
It was
is?
Brian
Chris
Goodwin. by the
Godwin?
way. I was
Okay,
correct.
Brian Goodwin, not Chris Godwin, but Brian Goodwin. Yeah, the Chris Godwin version of the NFL is probably Chris Godwin. Good call, Dylan. But the Brian Goodwin, is that his name?
Yes.
That version, different careers. But remember Jamar Chase's preseason when he was dropping everything?
Yes.
Because he sat out COVID, right? And then he got drafted, and he couldn't catch the ball. I remember people were joking about him saying, well, you know they have the white stripe on the college ball. And so it's a little bit different with the NFL ball. And people are going, oh, bleep, the Bengals just messed up. They passed up Penei Sewell for a guy that can't catch, and now he's talking about he can't catch because there's not a white stripe on the ball, like in college. Like, are you serious? And then he's from week 1 of his rookie year to the
He had
Xavier Worthy
I
couldn't
think
get
he
up
had
the
3
line.
touchdowns
That's a great
week
call.
1.
Yeah. Dude, Jamar Chase just came out like gangbusters, and I loved it because the day we did our people care about – I play fantasy football. I don't know if you guys know this, and people care about this no matter what Braden Gall says.
Can you tell us about your dreams next, please?
I'm going to, actually.
Okay.
It's to retire next year, but sometimes dreams don't come true. And so the day they had a preseason game on a Friday or a Saturday, whatever it was, and our auction draft was the next day, and Jamar Chase comes up, and people were like, nope, because the night before he dropped like 4 passes. He was in there for the first quarter, and he got like 5 targets, had 4 drops. And I'm like, yeah. I keep bidding, and then everybody stops bidding, and I'm like, are you guys serious? Like, did I get Jamar Chase for like $16?
Yeah, my
okay.
He didn't have 3 touchdowns week 1. He went for 1 touchdown, 101 yards on 5 receptions. So.
Yeah, there you go. So from week 1, he was Jamar Chase.
And then it was
and
1
so
touchdown, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, it was. He had 13
in a
TDs
dynasty
that year.
league, Yeah, in a dynasty league, had that game not been played, had we drafted before the preseason, he would have gone for like $35, $40. But the fact that it was that next day and people were like, I don't know. There's some questions about whether this guy's going to actually – he sat out a year, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that brings us to our next point, which is Les Norman joins us at noon. Todd Lebo at 1 o'clock. He's always had great hands. Fact or Fiction coming up at about 1:25. Fact or Fiction, is that done yet?
Fiction.
Oh, nice job. There we go. At least, and we got –
I'm an honest man. You know this
You
about
are
me.
nothing if not honest, okay? The next time you tell a lie will be the next time you tell a lie. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. Really cool that Tech 9 this morning on Sports Radio 810 released his song for the World Cup and did it live on A New Day with SSJ, and it was a lot of fun. It was packed in the studio. It was packed in the hallway because all the TV cameras and everything ready to go for this song that all of the cities are releasing their World Cup songs, all the cities that are host cities for the World Cup. And according to Tech 9, I haven't listened to every single city's official song, but according to Tech 9, ours is the only one with words. And it's just, it's Kansas City. It's repping the city, as Tech 9 has always done. There's something about people from Kansas City that always rep the city. Tech 9, Jason Sudeikis, Paul Rudd, Rob Riggle.
You live here and you act like a tourist.
Dude, it's crazy, man. The most true and the most seen I've ever felt on a tweet was somebody said, find you somebody that loves you as much as Kansas City people love wearing Kansas City shirts outside of Kansas City. I feel seen.
Same tweet.
I feel so seen.
Says the people that said
I
I heart NY for years. I'm sure that nobody ever wore shirts like that.
Yeah, exactly. But that is so true, though, man. Kansas City people love repping Kansas City. We love our city, man. That's that civic pride. That's why I can't stand anybody that wants to that's part of the reason why it bothers me when people try to tear down and take away and chip away at the dynasty of the Kansas City Chiefs. Because, there's that civic pride that goes along with it. And it's part of the reason why people were so pissed at ESPN for ignoring Salvador Perez's home run derby and talking to Pete Alonso, because you were disrespecting Kansas City by ignoring what Salvador Perez was doing. And you don't do that. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll hear that song when we return from the break. I want to get into some NFL football. Obviously, Adam Teicher joins us at 11 o'clock. The Jalen Moore contract numbers are out. I like the deal even more. No pun intended, I promise you that. I'm more excited about the deal now with the contract specific details, what it means that Trey Smith signed his franchise tag, and should the Chiefs been involved in Laramie Tunsil? Should they have been involved there? Is T. Higgins should he be all that upset if he plays this year on the franchise tag again? We'll look at two contracts that were signed last year before the season, which is when T. Higgins wanted a long-term deal, what he's getting in these what could be 3 years versus what they're getting, and if that's a good deal for T, if it's a bad deal for the Bengals, and how quickly the Chiefs would like to get the guard market done with Trey Smith and Trent McDuffie and all of that, which we'll continue to talk about with Adam Teicher, Les Norman, Todd Lebo. We're hanging out at Power and Light District KC Live. It's the Big 12 tournament, baby. It tips off an hour from now. We continue. More Zone next. in Kansas City, this song played as an intro into the games. Like, you never know what to expect, and I think he hit all the notes. All of the notes. You got a soccer feel to it, right? There was a little soccer feel in there with the tempo of the song. You got tons and tons of Kansas City rep as well, and there's a video that's out there online accompanying this release this morning that was officially released at 8 o'clock this morning right here on Sports Radio 810 with A New Day. And Stephen and Nate had an awesome interview with Tech and just about, his life in Kansas City and why it's so important that everywhere he goes, Kansas City is a part of his music, his persona, and everything he presents is about Kansas City.
And Tech is such a fun representative of Kansas City. I talked to him down on Rady Road because I just walked by him and saw him down there in New Orleans and said, hey, I didn't want to take too much time of his because I'm sure he gets a lot of questions.
He had a song to produce.
Apparently, I was like, "Hey, man, I actually saw you in Philly one time," and he ended up having a longer conversation with me. He's like, "Oh, nice. Wasn't that super small of you?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was that small." And he was like,
"That's cool."
Yeah, it's like he wanted to actually know more about it, and so I just thought it was super cool. I remember the same thing. I remember he's always out in the community. I remember seeing him at Gates one time. I was just like, "Hey, man, love your stuff." Because I didn't want to bother him. Yeah. He's in line to get food at Gates. They're about to yell at us. They're gonna ask us what we want.
That's exactly
and
right.
So you gotta be on your toes.
Be ready, man.
Gotta be on your toes. But he was just talking to me more. Like, he is a good representative of Kansas City, a great musician. I love this song, and you're so right when it comes to the soccer aspect. Some of the underlying musicality parts of it.
Yes.
You just feel the soccer almost raining and bleeding through, which I thought was really cool. It's tough to describe until you hear all the FIFA songs. Like, no, I know that part. That's in every single FIFA part. I love
at least that feel to it.
Yes.
That sort of tempo. Those that whole. Yeah, it was awesome that he did that. And Tech Nine always talks about when he's on these world tours, sort of bringing Kansas City. A taste of Kansas City to the world, and now we get to bring the world to Kansas City. And that representation, even just in a small bit, that's got to be pretty cool to be a part of that, to know that out of all the people that could have produced that song, it could have been generic.
Yeah.
Right? You could have found anybody just to generically produce a song, go into the studio and just computerize everything, and boom, done, great. And as I said, I haven't listened to every single song of all the host cities, but according to Tech Nine, ours is the only one with words, which is awesome. So it's really right in your face, Kansas City, which we love. In this city, we freaking love the right in your face of Kansas City. So, and we get the Big 12 tournament this week, which is also, right in your face with Kansas City, and in your face any people from Utah that don't want to be here, whatever. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810. Did you see the details to the Jalen Moore contract? If you're out there, I'll let you know what those are. We know 2 years, $30 million is what he was signed for. He gets $21.24 guaranteed of the 30. So just over $21.25 million guaranteed. He gets a $7.5 million signing bonus. Now, the salaries are this year $6.75 million, which is fully guaranteed. Next year's $14 million salary, $7 million of that is guaranteed. So credit Matt Derrick on this, because he did the math and put together the guarantees, the salaries, the signing bonus, as to what the cap hits are going to be. And his calculations, and I trust Matt Derrick on this, his calculations are this year's cap hit for Jalen Moore is going to be $10.9 million. Next year's cap hit is going to be essentially $18 million. But it'd be a $10.7 million dead cap hit. So they could save about $7 million in cap space if this year doesn't work out. They would take a $10.75 million dead cap hit, but they're not paying $18 million for a guy they don't feel is good enough to do it. Or if he's as good as they hope he is, you got a left tackle at $18 million cap hit when Jawan Taylor is a $28 million cap hit this year.
Yeah. So
I absolutely love the deal. It is a 2-year contract, as we said, that's probably going to be structured in a way that's only a 1-year deal that you can get out of it, reasonably get out of it after a year. Yeah. That's right. Reasonably get out of it after a year. And you don't we talk about sunk cost. you don't have to then go, well, we just got to take our medicine on this sunk cost. Like this year, Jawan Taylor, they have to take their medicine on the sunk cost of Jawan Taylor.
Correct.
No matter what it costs, it's a sunk cost. Next year, they don't have to do that, which is why when people are talking about different contract restructures and why I've said do not touch Jawan Taylor's contract.
Yes.
Do not touch Jawan Taylor's contract, okay? Take your medicine this year, whatever it is, because then you can walk away next year. You restructure that, now it's going to be more difficult to walk away next year, and you don't want to have to worry about that. You want to have the flexibility at the end of this year to be able to move on and find or move Wanya Morris or whatever it is to right tackle. So I love the contract even more, Sterling, now that I know that it's essentially a one-year deal. They could save $7 and change $million in cap space next year while taking not a finger prick, but a $10.75 million dead cap hit next year if they have to walk and move on from Jalen Moore, that the experiment didn't work.
Yeah, Matt Derrick, Spotrac, they have very similar numbers in
Well,
regards
there you go.
to
That's why I
cap
trust
hit.
Matt.
And Matt, I think, would more likely have been first before Spotrac just in general.
He was. It wasn't on Spotrac when I saw Matt's tweet.
Yeah, they're very, very similar. So yeah, I like how the contract is structured with, again, year one being the larger, obviously, in general. What it comes down to me is there's going to be a lot of concerns. It's like hitting on 14. It's you're really hoping that the 12 games and the 4 starts that we saw, and then again, you're already having the caveats of, well, not against the Bills because there was snow and not against this guy. Again, I'm hoping for the best. I really am. And I like this way more than we've talked about. I think it's way more than Dan Moore contract.
Oh, my God. The Dan Moore contract, I would be.
Besides myself.
I'd be so frustrated and mad. And by the way, that was Borgonzi. Borgonzi gave Dan Moore that contract. So it ain't exactly like there's the Chiefs culture.
Was Borgonzi the offensive line guy the whole time? Was he the guy giving out the contracts?
Have you seen what Steeler fans have been saying about this guy? Like after he left, basically, like Bon Voyage, Public Enemy number one. They had I can't remember who he was going up against. I think it was a guy in the Ravens where he just got. I don't even know if he put a hand on the defensive end.
Well, that's why I said that. I talked about that yesterday. Right, I talked about that yesterday. Sorry, Dylan. I talked about that yesterday. I can't see you, so it's tough to know when.
You're good.
That I looked back at the Dan Moore 12 sacks, and it's like, well, Russell Wilson holds the ball long, and I watched him every single sack that he gave up. I'm like, he got beat quickly.
Yeah.
In a lot of those sacks, like he just got whipped, and that's the thing about Jalen Moore, and that's what I saw last night or yesterday afternoon when I started watching all of the pass reps for the games he started. He also came in for Trent Williams late in the game when the Chiefs played the 49ers this year.
Okay.
When the Chiefs were up by 16 or whatever it was late, with like a minute and a half to go. He was at left tackle, and Chris Jones was the defensive end on that side. And I will say, it's not the best representation because it was a hurry up, and you could tell Chris Jones was tired. Like the second and third play, as they're going hurry up, Chris Jones isn't coming off the ball the way that he typically would come off the ball. So I think Jalen Moore, held his own against Chris Jones the first couple of reps. When it was like, okay, Chris Jones is rested. This is the first couple plays of this drive. All right, this is what I want to pay attention to see, how it works here and what he looks like against Chris Jones. And I thought he looked fine. But the thing that stood out immediately with Jalen Moore watching these is I don't know many, if any, reps I saw where he just got beat. If he dies, he will die a slow death. He will offer the deterrence to some degree, and he will not get bull rushed.
I think the best way of putting it for me is I did not like the contract overall. I didn't like the amount of money given.
Yeah.
I like how the contract is set up based on the amount of money given. And I think I'll put it this way. I am cautiously optimistic about Jalen Moore at left. Cautiously optimistic.
I would say check out Seth Kaiser's piece. Not you, but just in general. There is one specific thing that has stood out from Jalen Moore that I think is different than what Chiefs tackles do. And how are the Chiefs going to do that? What Jalen Moore does, and you'll see it immediately in every single – and I tweeted out every single rep he had against Jared Verse last year in that Rams game. And let me tell you, He looked just fine against Jared Verse. And like I said, bull rushers, power rushers, Jalen Moore looked fine.
Yeah.
I worry about the speed rushers. Nick Benito would be somebody 2 times a year that I would be worried about lining up against Jalen Moore because I didn't get a really good chance to see him going up against a guy who was quicker and maybe a little bit smaller. But what Jalen Moore does that's different from Chiefs tackles is that Jalen Moore at the snap gets he gets much quicker horizontal down the line of scrimmage. Like, he's quicker to engage. Like, it's a couple of steps. He's got a kick step, but it's really more of a slide step to have a wide pocket, not just a deeper pocket to where we see Chiefs tackles get vertical, right? Juwan Taylor has that foot set so far back, and he's setting up so far back because he's trying to drop and get vertical with his drop and go straight back. And so that makes it a deeper pocket for the Chiefs. Jalen Moore slides to his left quickly instead of coming. He's got a kick step, but it's way more to his left to engage quicker, which means the powerful players can't get enough momentum built up to really bull rush to knock him back when he anchors. But I didn't get to see him against speed rushers try to get to his left that quickly instead of having a quicker kick step drop. How do the Chiefs use Jalen Moore? Do they use him the same way that seems to be a strength for him, which is looking smooth and sliding? And he did not look – sometimes when a tackle's dropping in the kick step, it's kind of herky-jerky. I think sometimes Juwan Taylor, when he's got that kick step, it looks like his shoulders and body and everything is just like trying to jump back. Jalen Moore is smooth in getting over there because he's not gaining as much depth. Do the Chiefs do that, or do they have him drop vertically because that's typically what their tackles do? That's going to be a question because I don't know what he would look like doing that because the 49ers didn't ask him to do that. Also, the ball was coming out pretty quickly in those reps that I saw with Brock Purdy and the 49ers. But how do the Chiefs convert Jalen Moore from San Francisco's offense to the Chiefs' offense? And I'll say this and we'll go to break. What stood out to me about Jalen Moore, and I'm glad that Seth Kaiser saw the same thing, there wasn't a deficiency in his game. I did not see wow, this guy is great at this, so you emphasize this, he could be a top-end tackle. I don't think the potential for a top-end tackle is there. I think Jalen Moore is a high-floor guy with the potential of growing into a better-than-average, maybe even good left tackle, but not a guy that you can go, oh, here's Trent Williams, or here's Laramie Tunsil, here's Joe Alt. Here's Darisaw, Slater, Stanley. You found this guy when he was a backup, and now he grew into that. I think you're going to get way more consistent play than Donovan Smith 2 years ago, and I think you're going to get much better overall play than they got close to last year. And so that's an upgrade. Is it going to be a $15 million worth it upgrade per year? That's yet to be seen. And how do the Chiefs use him? Do they mess him up by trying to vertical drop, or do they say, this is what he's good at, we're going to widen the pocket for Patrick Mahomes now? We're going to, instead of Mahomes, now maybe he can escape more to his left or get out certain ways instead of feeling like now he always has to step up in the pocket if that pocket becomes more wide instead of deep for Patrick Mahomes. We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. in the next hour, starting with the next segment. We are hanging out at the Big 12 tournament. Look, you can come down and join us. Sports Radio 810 WHB presents this Miller Lite Fan Fest live at KC Live Block, the Power and Light District for the men's Big 12 basketball tournament. Pep rallies, watch parties, contests, live music, great food, and cold Miller Lite. It is all brought to you by the CW Farm and Ranch venue, River Bluff Brewery, and Church of the Resurrection. And that is going on today, 32 minutes away from tip-off over at T-Mobile with Cincinnati, the Bearcats, and Jizzy James out on the floor against Oklahoma State. And they're Jizzle James. Is it Edgerrin James? Is Edgerrin going to be here? Hey, Sterling, go see if Edgerrin wants to come on next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, hanging out at the Big 12 tournament, getting ready to start less than a half hour from now over at T-Mobile. We're hanging out at the Miller Lite Fan Fest that is going on right now with watch parties, pep rallies, contests, live music, great food, and cold Miller Lite. Joining us now is Adam Teicher from ESPN here in the Zone on this Tuesday edition. Adam, how are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How you doing today?
I am doing just fine. How was your Monday of legal tampering? Were you tampering with anybody while the day was going on, since you were then allowed to by law to tamper?
Yeah, it's the 2 days that we can do that, right? So I guess I should have been doing
like the
that.
purge.
But, no tampering from me yesterday. Just following what was going on with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I always like at 11 o'clock and when it starts here local time. I joked around yesterday. I said, "Hi, agent that I'm just talking to for the first time about player that we're going to negotiate a deal that I want to know is interested." Yes, GM, that this is the first time we have had these conversations about said player. How are you? Oh, you are interested in this player? Yes, he is interested in you. What if we signed for something like this? Sounds good. Let's put it out. Yesterday at 11 o'clock. I think that's kind of what happens.
Either it's that or we got some real speed marriages here, or maybe there was a little illegal tampering going on there.
Yes, maybe that we can get into that here in a little bit. But let's talk about the signing that took place. There were a couple of signings over the weekend with Nick Bolton and Hollywood Brown, but I think the biggest news of these 3 days of Saturday, Sunday, and on into Monday was Jalen Moore and trying to figure out left tackle. You agree that of those, that was the biggest story for this team, or you're going a different route with one of the other two?
No, I think Jalen Brown is. I mean, that's sort of the Chiefs. Right now, that's their leader in the clubhouse, right? To start for him at left tackle, and we'll see if it works out for him. But and hey, they can still always add somebody possibly through the draft. We'll see. But he's their left tackle right now, and interesting to see how he does. And he's been mostly a backup during his career. How he can handle the grind of a full season.
Yeah, the question obviously is that he doesn't have the experience. There isn't a larger sample size for this guy in San Francisco. But it seems, Adam, that when he filled in for Trent Williams, he filled in to a degree that was suitable and was at least a threshold that the Chiefs felt like he was able to clear that bar. What do you think the Chiefs see in Jalen Moore? And do we just go ahead and assume that this guy is the left tackle next year with the 2-year, $30 million contract?
Yeah, that's a real talent to sort of project a guy into a different role. He, as we talked about, only 12 starts in 4 seasons in the NFL, just 5 last year. So he's never done it for a full season, and now teams are going to be watching video of him and getting ready for him, and we'll see whether he and the Chiefs can handle that. But right now I think he is their starting left tackle. I mean, I imagine they'll have some kind of competition for him, whether that's bringing back a veteran like a DJ Humphries or drafting somebody. Maybe Wanya Morris can make a leap this year that he couldn't make last year, but. I feel like when opening day comes around, Jalen Moore has got as good a chance to be starting for the Chiefs left tackle is better than anybody else right now. So we'll see what happens here, but I'm assuming until we get other evidence that he's going to be their starter.
This is, I guess, is this an indication to you that this is what the tackle market looks like in this year when we're talking about there is not one obvious answer to this? If the Chiefs did not get Ronnie Stanley, which some reports were that they were going to make a run at Ronnie Stanley, and I talked about last Thursday and Friday, I'd be fine if they signed him, but I wasn't confident that come Monday he would still be available, that he was going to sign with the Ravens. That's what ended up happening. But is this an indication of what the market was for the tackles, that one of the guys that gets a bigger free agent deal is someone who was a reserve in San Francisco that in a limited role looked pretty good. So, hey, now this is the price of doing business for somebody like this.
Yeah, not a lot of not a lot of left tackles to go around. So, it is. And, And part of this, I think, is the Chiefs projecting a little bit that maybe he can be above what he was in San Francisco, that he can take that step. But they don't know that. I mean, they're guessing a little bit here too, and so we'll see if they're right or not. But it's interesting to see where this goes with him, and whether he indeed is their guy, or he winds up as the swing tackle next year and gets beaten out by somebody else. To me, you don't win Super Bowls by handing the Jalen Moores of the world starting spots. You make them earn it, and so I still suspect strongly that there's going to be some competition here. We'll see. I mean, let's see what the Chiefs can get done in the draft, and maybe there'll be a free agent who lowers his price, and he ends up with signing with the Chiefs to compete for a job. So we'll see where it goes. But my sense is that may be the way this is headed.
Visiting with Adam Teicher, I want to talk about this as it could be something that develops. I don't know. At 11:05 or a little bit before that, you reported that and ESPN, you and ESPN colleagues, Matt Miller, Adam Schefter, et cetera, reported it came out at 11:05 that Jalen Moore was a Kansas City Chief. There are now those in San Francisco that are questioning if the Chiefs tampered and if the NFL will open an investigation into the Chiefs, since the legal tampering period started at 11 o'clock, and at 11:05 they had agreed on a 2-year deal for $30 million, 15 of that, 15 a year, and then what was it, 21.24 guaranteed. Any concern here with the Chiefs in that 11 o'clock is when it starts, and 5 minutes later is when this thing was reported that it was a done deal with the Chiefs and more?
Well, there might be. I mean, I don't know that right now, and I don't know that the Chiefs were in on him early. I really don't. But I do know that it happened quickly. And hey, the money the Chiefs were talking about there, that was a pretty good contract. I mean, I think Jalen Moore would have been crazy to say no to that. So if the Chiefs came in and his agent's phone rang at 11 o'clock, and it was the Chiefs calling saying, hey, here's what we got on the table, take it or leave it, I think he would have been crazy to leave that offer there. So, given what his career has been up to this point. So I could see where a deal would come together pretty quickly at the numbers that it did for him, but I can't tell you that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, and that was part of my thinking, too. Like, I didn't know what those numbers would be for Jalen Moore, what it would be for Dan Moore, a guy that was out there that was being talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs, and there were some other names too, like, hey, do you take a chance on an injured Jedrick Wills from the Cleveland Browns? And I don't know, maybe they bring him in too on a 1-year, $3 million contract and say, oh, well, now you're going to compete, and if you're that guy, well, you were a top 10 pick in the draft anyway. I do wonder, like, if you can read the market, like, part of your job is to know where the market's going. And Dan Moore signed an hour later 4 years for $88 million. And he gets, 21 and change, 22. I think it was 80. It might have been $86 million. But either way, he gets more than Ronnie Stanley on the open market, Dan Moore. And to your point, I do wonder if the Chiefs had an idea of what the market would be for a guy like Dan Moore and quickly said, Jalen, here's 2 years, $30 million, 21.24 guaranteed on the dotted line right now. Or we get into, talks with Dan Moore or some of the other tackles that might be out here. We're looking at you right now. Take it or leave it. Do you want this deal that we're putting on the table for you? This is the appropriate price, market value, what we have assessed with the cap number, with the free agency, with who's out there. We have other players that we also have assessments on that we will pivot to. But you are first up, Jalen. Take it or leave it. And if I'm his agent, I'm going, yes, we'll take the deal. Yes, we will agree to that one, and we'll work out the fine points later. But yes, we're on board. We'll sign that deal, and then hey, it gets out that the Chiefs have worked out, or the Chiefs are signing Jalen Moore, because the details didn't come out till late last night. And on that, where there were a lot of more, there were many more details, Adam, and this is why I think there's a maybe better than 50-50 chance that this could be the scenario. I don't know. And I'm not trying to have Chiefs colored glasses, and we'll know they didn't tamper because I would not be surprised if any team did that. But the details of a lot of contracts when they were done were then put out right then of what those details were. Chiefs were later on that night. And I do wonder if there was an initial, Jalen, here's the deal, 2 years, $30 million, we'll give you 21.24 guaranteed, and take it or leave it, and then we'll work out those particulars of what the cap structure is going to be and the guaranteed dollars later on. Do you want it? If not, we're going after Dan Moore.
Yeah, my sense is that's what did happen because the numbers, as you say, didn't come out until the specific numbers didn't come out until a little later. So I think maybe the structure was agreed on almost right away, but maybe some of the details took a little while to hammer out.
Hey, Dylan, can you play the clip of Andy Reid? I wanted to play this one yesterday, and Adam, I don't know if you heard this or not. But this is from the Better Angle podcast. It's Clay Harbor, who better known to me as one of the contestants on The Bachelor a number of seasons ago, but played in the NFL for like 5 years, crossed over with Joe Thuney for about 4 or 5 months, Joe Thuney's rookie year. Clay Harbor was there in the offseason and training camp and everything with the New England Patriots. So they had Andy Reid on their podcast, and they asked Andy Reid about the Joe Thuney trade. This is about a minute and change or whatever, but here's Andy Reid weighing in on what went into the Joe Thuney trade, the cap, the Bears, and also that left guard spot. He answers all of that in this one particular answer. Here's Andy Reid on the Better Angle podcast Sunday.
He's like my favorite, one of my favorite all-time guys that I've coached. Just, that human part of it. So you're around him, and he's just a good dude. I mean, just all around a good dude, and tough, dirty tough. He's going to do Chicago, just a heck of a job. I mean, he still can play. But the thing you got to do is you got to be able to manage this cap thing, and it's a nightmare that way. If you're not going to push a ton of money forward, then you got to manage the cap and try to keep consistent with this whole winning thing. And that's not an easy thing to manage. And sometimes you have to make these decisions, and it just kicks you right in the butt. They're tough ones. They're just tough. Now, we're lucky to have some guys that we feel like can step in and play that position, young guys. And you got to go ahead and you've got to take that, whatever risk there is, you've got to take it and say, hey, listen, we've done some things in the draft to make sure that we're in a position where we can make this whole winning thing a possibility. And so we did that last year with Kingsley, and he'll have an opportunity. Caliendo did a nice job working into that position, so you got good compete at that left guard spot, and then it gave us that opportunity to maybe move Joe and move him into a place that he really wanted to come to. And so you at the same time of taking care of ourselves, we were able to take care of Joe that way.
Adam, any response to that when what we hear from Andy Reid is that sometimes you got to take one of those risks. Like, you have to. The cap is tough. It's difficult. You've got to figure it out year by year. There comes a time when you got to take a risk. I think they definitely did that with Tyreek Hill, and he said it's why you go into the draft and you grab some players, and they did that last year. And he mentions Kingsley, has an opportunity. Mentioned Caliendo as well. What Joe Thuney meant, but ultimately, the business side of it, and then said they wanted to do right by them, but also by Joe Thuney, and Chicago was a place that he wanted to go. So your takeaway and reaction to hearing those comments from Andy Reid?
Yeah, no, he's right. I mean, you got to take a risk sometimes, and I think that's what they did with Jalen Moore to some extent here, and at least with Kingsley Suamataia or Hunter Norzad or Mike Caliendo, the Chiefs know those guys, so they have a pretty good idea of what they're getting there if they go with one of those guys at left guard. But with Jalen Brown or Jalen Moore, it really is a little bit of a risk. So, yeah, I get what he's saying. You can't keep everybody, and you try to prepare for these things in the draft. That's why if Justin Reed ends up leaving, the Chiefs tried to get ahead of this last year by picking Jaden Hicks. So I can see Hicks stepping into the starting lineup if Reed ends up going in free agency. So yeah, he's right. I mean, this is kind of the way it is.
When we look back on that draft in the second round, Adam, and I'd have to look back to the conversations, but did we feel like it was a reach for the Chiefs to take Kingsley? Because at the time I felt like, hey, people are talking about this guy going in the first round. Did the Chiefs trade back out of the first round and take Kingsley? And then we know that they moved up a spot to grab Kingsley Suamataia, so they wanted him. They were waiting patiently, and we hear Brett Veach tell Kingsley Andy Reid was, he's champing at the bit, like he was trying to keep himself from, like we don't want to trade up too far, but finally it was a spot that we wanted to come up and get you. That's what Andy Reid felt about you. Looking back, do we think that maybe with the power of hindsight that they were viewing it as, they wanted him so bad because they just had to simply fill a need? Like, was he the best player on their board in the second round? But, God, we got to have a left tackle. And this is the guy that we've identified that could play left tackle. Maybe he's more of a third rounder, but we take him right now. Or was it legit like they felt like this guy shouldn't have been there in the second round? With hindsight, because he says, we draft guys and then they get those opportunities. I don't think Jaden Hicks was the plan in the fourth round to take a safety. I think Jaden Hicks was there, and Brett Veach said that there's too much value there. Is there breaking news?
There is. The Chargers standout cornerback Christian Fulton has agreed to a term with the Chiefs, getting a 2-year, $20 million deal, upside to $20.5 million with $15 million fully guaranteed. Deal done by Todd France of Athletes First 4 minutes ago per Rap Sheet.
Okay, so
that's
Adam,
an interesting signing. That's an interesting addition for the Chiefs. He's been a starter in the league. He started for the Chargers last year for I think 3 years before that with Tennessee.
He was with Tennessee for 4
that's
years.
a real. This is not a backup type guy. They were obviously going to plug him in with on the opposite. Trent McDuffie, and that's going to be their pair next season with this signing. So, I think this is another significant move by the Chiefs.
I'll say this, the quick little view of the PFF of Christian Fulton last year for the Chargers, 2 of his 5 top grades in coverage were against the Chiefs. So maybe the Chiefs got an up-close and personal view of what they saw from Christian Fulton and said, well, if he's available at the right price, maybe we go and grab him. Let's put a bow on this thing with Kingsley, and then we'll take a break and come back, talk Christian Fulton and Hollywood and Nick Bolton. But looking back, is there power of hindsight? Do we think like that was legitimately a guy they felt can play left tackle, or were they reaching and now they've fallen into, well, we took Kingsley last year. He didn't work out at left tackle, so it does give us an opportunity to trade Joe Thuney, just as Jaden Hicks was there. We weren't planning on it, but he's there. We take him, and now it gives us the opportunity of moving on from Justin Reed.
Yeah, well, with Suamati, I do think there's they were guilty of maybe going for positional need there as opposed to the player himself. We knew he was going to be a little bit of a project, or thought he was. I mean, he's only 21 years old when last year started, and so he didn't play a lot in college. So he was probably going to be a little bit of a work in progress. But the fact that they pivoted, like we talked about this, you remember last week, the fact they pivoted from him so quickly. Normally they'll give a young guy a little bit of a leash when he's not playing well, and if they do have to bench him, they'll bring him back and give him another shot. But they pivoted so quickly from him, not only as a starter but also position-wise, and they moved him to guard, that you have reason to believe that they missed something there, that they maybe fell in love with the position and missed something with the player. So I don't know. We'll see how it all works out for him. I mean, he's still a young guy with a lot of developing to do, and might become a really good player. Probably not a tackle though.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about the defense for the Chiefs. They bring back Nick Bolton, and they address the cornerback position. Christian Fulton, 4 years with the Tennessee Titans, 1 year with the Los Angeles Chargers, and now on a 2-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, which ultimately could be a 1-year deal, as we saw with Jalen Moore, how that contract was structured. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We're hanging out at the Big 12 tournament, and Adam Teicher is our guest. More Zone next. do like a home run hire of or a home run signing of like a Carlton Davis, but maybe like a Rasul Douglas, a 30-year-old, a one-year deal. Paulson Adebo would be a lot more. But they went for a guy who's 27 years old, has some draft pedigree coming out of LSU, a guy who has battled some injuries, but a guy, Adam, that is primarily an outside cornerback. What do you make of the signing? The Chiefs going after cornerback, 2 years, $20 million, $15 million of that fully guaranteed for Christian Fulton.
Yeah, they, now it gives them a little flexibility at corner. They can move McDuffie back into slot coverage if they want this year, and bring Jalen Watson in as your third corner. So this is, I really kind of like this move, assuming he can stay healthy. That's been the risk with him, right, is that he's missed a lot of time with the hamstring injuries. Seems to give him a particular problem. So, that to me is what I wonder about. He's never played more than 15 games in a season because of mostly hamstring injuries. So, can he hold up for a full season and give the Chiefs what they need there? But, yeah, I do kind of, at first glance, I do like the move and feel like, yeah, it was a need. And now, they're sort of checking off the boxes now positionally and are going to be a lot more free than they would have been otherwise to just go best player available when they get to the draft, because their needs are really going down here.
Yeah, so they had some depth issues last year at cornerback when they were trying to figure out without Jalen Watson if it was Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson. We know that. Jalen Watson, the injuries the last couple of years, so that's certainly a part of it. And whether or not Trent McDuffie goes back to the slot. And I'm sort of curious. I think all of that has to do with it. Is there one thing more than another? Because you talk about flexibility. I completely agree. That was my first thought is, okay, this guy plays on the outside. If they like Jalen Watson to stay on the outside and he's healthy, does that move Trent McDuffie back inside? Or is this we're going to fill the room with good players, not break the bank contracts, but solid players, and add the depth so that we aren't in a position to where we're going to get picked on in one particular spot throughout the season, whether that be cornerback or linebacker or, another position. So I do wonder, in your perspective, is this more about Trent McDuffie maybe moving back to the inside, or maybe more about them battling depth last year and some injuries to Jalen Watson and somebody to play opposite Trent McDuffie?
Well, I think it fills both, it's both flexibility and depth. Certainly the depth part of it, we know that. But if that's what the Chiefs want to do with McDuffie, they can go ahead and do that now. And, now that they have Christian Fulton. So interested to see whether the Chiefs end up going that way, whether, McDuffie is more of a slot corner during passing situations like he was 2 years ago. And so, I think it does give them that flexibility. So I think this is a signing that allows the Chiefs to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, here's something that sticks out to me, Adam. Last year for Christian Fulton, he had almost an 80 grade on run defense. Well, if you're talking about Spags.
You got to be a full-service cornerback if you're going to play for Spagnuolo. You can't be just a cover guy. You've got to be willing to mix it up in that part of the game. And, I think that he fits that part of it as well. So this is – he's not a real big guy. He's only, I think, 5'11". So he's not, the 6'2" or 6'3" guy that the Chiefs would maybe prefer in a corner. But neither is McDuffie, and it's worked out fine there. So but other than that, I think this is sort of the quintessential Chiefs cornerback signing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think of overall what we've seen from this team? So, Nick Bolton comes back on a contract that was probably a little bit too rich for some people's taste, and maybe just in line with other people's taste of Nick Bolton. And maybe it was part of, we're going to pay Nick Bolton because we are going to lose, one of these two. We can't lose both Justin Reed and Nick Bolton. Hollywood Brown, essentially a redo from last year's contract. They bring him back. Jalen Moore, the more affordable, maybe riskier, maybe bigger payoff, a bet on Jalen Moore as opposed to we're going to give 4 years, $88 million to Dan Moore. And now Christian Fulton, this 2 years, $10 million, per year. as opposed to some of the cornerbacks we see get paid for, signing $21 million contracts for guys that are a little bit older. What are you looking at and seeing and assessing from the Chiefs' strategies so far through the weekend and these first couple of days?
Yeah, definitely taking lower cost type of guys. Not necessarily expecting Pro Bowlers, but certainly starter type players, quality players. So that's kind of been their thing this year in free agency. And with regard to their own guys, I was getting a strong sense that of their own free agents, the priorities were going to be, Trey Smith certainly, and we talked about him that. They thought maybe initially he was going to be out of their price range, but then with the cap being a lot higher than they thought he was, they could get involved with Trey Smith. So there's certainly Trey Smith, but also Hollywood Brown and Nick Bolton. I figured if they were going to re-sign three guys, those were going to be the guys. Once the cap took a jump, and sure enough, that's the way it worked out. So not to say they won't bring anybody else back, but I feel like those guys were their priorities, and maybe not so much priorities, but priorities within guys they were going to be able to. They felt like financially they were going to be able to retain.
Do you like the Nick Bolton deal coming back 3 years, $45 million? With the 30 of that guaranteed to return as the middle linebacker, whether it was Andy Reid or Spagnuolo called him the quarterback of the defense?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think he brings a lot of things to the Chiefs. He's maybe not the most complete player that you'd want, but I still feel like he is an asset to them. And you can't discount the fact the Chiefs would have had to go out and get somebody if they'd not re-signed Nick Bolton. And then what do? Can you get as good a value from that new player as you can from a guy that you know? So I think that has to factor into the cost as well, that familiarity a lot of times I think makes a lot of sense. I really do. I think knowing the guy and exactly how he's going to fit into your system is worth some money. So and the Chiefs maybe had to do that, or felt like they had to do that with Nick Bolton, and that's the way they went.
Yeah, visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, Chiefs Insider. Wanted to get your thoughts on Trey Smith, and it sort of just went as paperwork the other day when it came out that, or maybe it was even yesterday, Sunday, whenever, that he signed his franchise tag. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I thought it was interesting from the standpoint that, Chris Jones, they got the deal done last year before legal tampering period opened up, so he never actually signed his franchise tag. You don't have to sign it until July 15th when they, figure out that's the last day that you can work out a long-term contract, or you just play on that one-year deal. Trey Smith signing the franchise tag when he did tells me, at least looking into it, a couple of things. One, that there's not going to be a holdout, that he wants to stay in Kansas City, and he's committed to getting something done. And if anything, if I get injured this offseason between now and July, I'm going to get my $23.4 million. But also, they may not be that close to a contract extension getting done.
That's what I took from that, hey, if we're not that close and the Chiefs decide they want to pull the tag, all the money's going to be gone.
Yep.
So, and the Chiefs could have done that. Before he signed, the Chiefs could have said, you know what, Trey, thanks, but you're not our franchise player anymore. We're going to get our $20-some million back against the cap, and you're free to go sign with anybody you want. Well, by then the money's gone. So, yes, I'm with. That's the first thing I thought of when he signed that, is that, okay, he's a little bit concerned that maybe the Chiefs are going to cut him loose at some point, and he's not going to be able to get a contract that he wants.
Yeah, that was, and so, when you and I talked last week, I had given the timeline of what Chris Jones had done, and Chris Jones signing on that Saturday, and then thinking about it as Trey Smith signed his franchise tag, and last year throughout the season and early on in the offseason, the complete and total expectation of what the Chiefs were talking about was that they were going to get something done with Chris Jones. So that contract, those negotiations, and sort of the parameters, especially from the year before, trying to figure something out, I think they were both on the same page of what they wanted to get done. So I think it was a matter of crossing T's, dotting I's, some other specifics that are there that both maybe sides wanted to come to an agreement, and they get it done. Whereas Trey Smith, it doesn't seem like was really part of the plan until the cap changed. And when that happened, then they pivoted. And so maybe last Thursday or Friday is when the negotiations with Trey Smith started, where the negotiations with Chris Jones probably started pre-2022 season.
Yeah. Well, I think him signing the tag increased the possibility. And again, we're still really early in the game, so there's plenty of time for this to change. But increased the possibility that maybe Trey Smith plays this year on the one-year franchise tag at $24.3 million, and then he's back at it again next year. And the Chiefs, he and the Chiefs are going through this again next year. It increases that possibility. Now, it doesn't mean that's going to happen for sure.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN. Hollywood Brown returns to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the news and the story around Xavier Worthy on Saturday. Is there a connection between the two? Was it just random coincidence of the news coming out about Xavier Worthy and then the news coming out about Hollywood Brown? Or is there a clear connection that maybe they were interested in Hollywood Brown at a certain price, and then the news comes out with Xavier Worthy, and they go ahead and say, "Hey, Hollywood, let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing we did last year." Done. Any connection there?
No, I think that was more coincidence than anything else. The Chiefs wanted Hollywood Brown back, and so I was expecting this one all along. The Chiefs really thought that in Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, last year they were going to have a really good thing on the outside last year at wide receiver. And they never had as we know, they never had all three guys on the field at the same time. And, they felt like that was a real setback for them. And now they're going to try to play it back again. And maybe all three of those guys are healthy and can avoid suspensions and all that stuff and can give them a full season. And then we'll see what we got. But it is. I think they were really thought they were on the verge of something really good with the passing game. It certainly looked that way during training camp, before Hollywood Brown got hurt. So, I think they're really excited about I know they're really excited about what this is going to look like with all three of those guys on the field at the same time. Now, we'll see if they're right, but they felt like that was going to be a real dynamic thing for them.
Yeah, and Hollywood got the $7 million up to $11 million. Diami Brown, who's another speed merchant, a guy that, maybe you'd be looking at to bring in if you didn't get something done with Hollywood Brown, signed a contract 1 year for $10 million up to $12. So you've already got $3 more million this year for Diami Brown than Hollywood Brown. And then Darius Slayton signed 3 years, $36 million. If you're looking for another guy that would be like a deep threat or speed to go along with Xavier Worthy of some of the things they wanted from Hollywood Brown. So that's $12 million a year for 3 years, as opposed to the $7 million for Hollywood Brown, and up to $11 million for this 1 year. So I do like the deal with Hollywood Brown. Hopefully he can stay healthy. That has been a hope that a lot of teams have had preseason for Hollywood Brown for a number of years now. Also, you want to talk about coincidence? Just realize this. Rashee Rice's injury, Mahomes was trying to tackle the guy who intercepted the ball, which was Christian Fulton.
There you go.
Christian Fulton
Things
intercepted
come
that
full
ball.
circle, don't they? That's amazing.
Right.
What a coincidence that is,
Yeah.
huh?
Unbelievable. Adam, as always, I appreciate the time, brother. I know you got a lot of work to get into now to talk about this and write about the Christian Fulton deal. We will let you go and let you get to work at ESPN.com. Adam, really appreciate the time as always, brother.
All right, good stuff, Jason. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN.com. And again, as we're talking with Adam, the Kansas City Chiefs signed cornerback Christian Fulton, 5 years in the league, 4 years with the Tennessee Titans, 1 year with the Los Angeles Chargers. An up-and-down player, a guy who I think adds depth to this cornerback room, a guy who is a physical player, plays well against the run, will tackle, You're not getting a shutdown corner. You're also not paying for a shutdown corner. I think this gives you twofold. Sterling, I think it gives them the at least option that they can slide McDuffie back inside at slot if they want to from time to time, because Fulton plays primarily on the outside.
Sure.
Jalen Watson plays primarily on the outside. So if there's those three cornerbacks on the field at the same time, does McDuffie slide down to the cornerback instead of slot corner instead of Shamari Connor being down there? Now that it looks like Justin Reed will be gone, so do they envision a different role for Shamari Connor? And also what it does is they saw last year the depth after Jalen Watson, that Joshua Williams didn't develop the way they wanted to. Najee Johnson, they had the excuse of, well, this is the first year after the ACL, so let's see. Okay, well, then next year we'll find out. So it's another player that's a middle-tier free agent for not a lot of money. You're not breaking the bank, and you're getting a solid player that can add depth overall to the team. I like the signing from that standpoint. I don't want people getting the false impression that the Chiefs are signing a lockdown corner in Christian Fulton on the other side.
Then I'll give those folks the
Okay.
false impression.
Great.
No, why I'm so excited about Christian Fulton, and I agree, I'm not saying he's prime Jalen Ramsey or any of that stuff.
So we'll cut that, Dylan, where he says he's prime Jalen Ramsey.
Okay, yep, thank you. And you're right, he plays almost exclusively on the outside, 659 snaps last year at corner and 17 in the slot.
Yeah.
So that's a rounding error, if you will. So he will not be playing in the slot for Kansas City.
Yeah.
But you're right, he's very physical. There's a reason why he was drafted where he was drafted, and that even came with some baggage from college. It was the P test where he at LSU earlier on, where
he didn't have a strong enough stream.
Well, he had allegedly, which
Okay.
I don't think it's really allegedly, but he had someone else take it for him. He had to get
It just seems like a smart player, right? That's ingenuity.
so
that's
he had
MacGyvering
to,
that thing.
He had to have someone. Had someone take it for him, and then he obviously he said it was because of marijuana. Back then, it was illegal, and you couldn't do any of that stuff, and so he had to sit out a year. But now he's back. I like the signing because he was having his best season of his career last year for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And then the bye week happened. He had a little bit of a down ending to last season. But the Chiefs get the best out of every single secondary player.
I agree.
It's what they do. So if they can say, hey, look what he did the first 5 weeks last year, and we think that can be him consistently on our team, I like this move for Kansas City.
As much concern as I have, and we've talked about with the offensive line development, and that would be part of my worry about Jalen Moore switching schemes and systems and going from a technique that is quickly getting wide as opposed to gaining depth in the kick step. If the Chiefs keep him as a player that's going to immediately slide more wide and create the pocket that way, as opposed to what we've seen from Jawan Taylor and, of course, Joe Thuney and other tackles, the development there was a worry that, for me from that standpoint of actually developing and honing in some of those traits, as opposed to you drafted a really good player in Creed Humphrey. You drafted a really good player in Trey Smith, who was in the 6th round, but we know why he was a 6th rounder. He was not a 6th rounder because he was a 6th round talent. He was a 6th rounder because of health concerns. He was a 2nd round talent. And so when you draft a guard in the 2nd round, he damn sure better play. And Kingsley Suamataia, we'll see what he does as a guard. So there's a worry there. There's a concern. There's a caution with Jalen Moore developing. That's not the case with Christian Fulton in the secondary. As much as there's that worry and caution there's equally as much confidence on the opposite side of the secondary of what they get out of their players typically. And
he likes a tackle. As you mentioned with Adam Teicher, his run defense grade was nearly an 80.
Yeah.
That's huge for his Spags defense.
Spags, if you're going to play cornerback for Spags, you better be physical. If you're going to play cornerback, he's not as tall and lengthy as we've seen from typical Spags cornerbacks. This feels like a little bit of a break from the we have to have these numbers specifically at a cornerback. We must have this height, this arm length, things like that, because he's 5'11". And I say more of a break because they did it with Trent McDuffie, too. That was the thing about when they drafted Trent McDuffie. We're like, this guy does not fit the mold of a typical Chiefs cornerback. Joshua Williams, okay. Jalen Watson, okay. That makes sense. Those are the typical Chiefs. L'Jarius Sneed, all right, typical Spags cornerbacks. And McDuffie wasn't that. This is a typical Spags corner in that he plays physical and he comes up and stops the run. But the length and the size, tall, arms, things like that, you're not seeing Joshua Williams out there or L'Jarius Sneed. And it's a couple of guys that'll be a little bit on the shorter side at cornerback, which is not something the Chiefs typically do. But when you're playing the game, who's available and what's he going to bring to the table and what are the assets that you can maximize, which is what Dave Merritt, you hope, will be able to do with Christian Fulton. And maybe if that's the case, maybe if they're willing to break from the norm a little bit for the cornerbacks, maybe they'll break from the norm a little bit on tackles or things like that to where this guy's the best tackle in the draft, but he's got 33-inch arms. Not long enough, sorry. We're going to go with somebody else that's a lesser player but has the arm length we're looking for. I don't know if that's a direct correlation, but it is interesting they signed this guy, and he's not as linky as some of the other wiry that we've seen with Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson. But I do like the move. It adds depth. It gives an option of Trent McDuffie to slide back on the inside. Oh, and I don't know, conspiracy theory, right? Conspiracy theory. They don't get a long-term deal done with Trent McDuffie this offseason. So they move him to slot, and he plays slot the entire year, and they try to sign him as a slot cornerback, which is cheaper than an outside cornerback. I don't think that's the case. I'm just saying conspiracy theory. I don't think
you are wearing a tinfoil hat, which I thought was odd.
Always do. No, I think they'll take care of Trent McDuffie, but slot cornerback is much cheaper than an outside corner on the open market. But look, he excelled, man. McDuffie was amazing in the slot. And if Fulton can play the outside with Jalen Watson, man, it does offer that versatility to not have Shamari Connor or trying to fill that role. I mean, when Jalen Watson went down, man, they were trying to fill two spots. They were trying to fill Jalen Watson's spot, but then also Trent McDuffie's spot as a slot corner. I mean, that's why you saw some of the issues there, man. We can have questions about guard, and we can have questions about tackle. Those are going to be there throughout the entire offseason. There's not an immediate answer where you go, okay, it's fixed, and there's no more questions. But defensively, one of the things that helped this team get to 3 straight Super Bowls is how shored up each position was on the defense. And I think this is part of getting back to that, why they brought back Nick Bolton. But, hey, there's a flashing red light of one area of that defense that's wide open right now that happens to be a huge strength of the draft, and that is that interior defensive line, not named Chris Jones. An edge rusher, certainly, without a Minihue, but a strong and deep defensive tackle draft. So maybe one of those to where at pick number 31, they might be going to interior defensive line to put next to Chris Jones. We'll see. We'll take a timeout, come back, more zone next. All right, thank you to Adam Teicher joining us here this hour, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and the moves they have made. They signed Christian Fulton, 2 years, $20 million, 15 of that is going to be guaranteed to add to their cornerback room. 5 years in the league, 4 with Tennessee last year with the Chargers, had his best year. Last year has been dealing with injuries throughout his career, hamstring injury last year, and when he's been out there, he's been fine. Certainly last year was pretty good as a cornerback for the Chargers. So the Chiefs add to that room. They signed last night Cole Christensen and James Winchester to deals. So Winchester returns to the Kansas City Chiefs on a 1-year deal. So he will be long snapping yet again. And the moves they made yesterday with Jalen Moore and Elijah Mitchell that we talked about with this Chiefs team, and adding to that now Christian Fulton. So they have added 3 specific free agents, not re-signing their own or retaining restricted free agents or anything like that. It's Jalen Moore, Elijah Mitchell, and Christian Fulton. Tackle, running back, cornerback. People, we were wondering if they would draft in the draft this year in April, get a tackle. They're definitely going to get a running back. Are they going to get a cornerback? What about defensive line? That's the only one they haven't really addressed right now because Turk Wharton got paid. Good for Turk. But these 3 guys I think are interesting of those particular positions, because Beach always wants to go in the draft not feeling like you must take this position because you're stuck and you don't have a fallback plan if you don't get this guy.
What's cool about – oh, my bad, Sterling.
No, go ahead, Dylan.
Go ahead.
I was going to say what's cool about Turk, too, Carolina's where he caught the Chiefs fan that was falling out of the stadium.
Awesome.
So that's pretty cool.
That was
Not
awesome.
the stadium, his stands. That sounds
yeah,
way
the
more
little kid that
dramatic,
ran down there
yeah.
to get his autograph, and Turk runs over there and catches him and then gives him his glove.
Yep.
I wonder what it's like for that family, right? Like, hey, Jeffrey, remember the guy that caught you? He just signed
Gonna have
with the Panthers.
AJ Hawk's wife, you know how she split the jersey with Brady Quinn's and his. It'll be like he'll have the Turk Wharton Chiefs and the Turk Wharton Panthers.
That's right. I feel good for him, but I'm also nervous for him. I feel good that he got that money, but Panthers fans were set and convinced, and it was already a done deal that Milton Williams was going to the Panthers.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots come in and swoop him up, and he goes to New England. I worry that Turk Wharton won't live up to expectations of watching Milton Williams in New England and Turk Wharton being good, but maybe Milton Williams ascends into this dominant player.
Sure.
We know it. So I worry that Turk will be in Carolina. I want him to dominate. I hope he's awesome. I really do.
Trust
I think he's
Vrabel
really good.
and the Patriots building a little more than the Panthers as well.
Milton Williams might be put in a better position to excel.
The
but
Panthers not known for their stability? Weird.
But I love that he got paid, man. Missouri S&T, undrafted free agent, and now gets all that guaranteed dollar. That's awesome, man. All right, we'll talk with Les Norman. We'll switch it up. A little baseball coming up next. Yes, indeed. It's time to talk with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City, getting our conversation started with Les Norman, one of our favorite times of the year and one of our favorite guests to have on the show. And we get that rolling yet again here on this Tuesday. Les, welcome into the show. How are you, brother?
Oh my gosh, this has like been the longest off season it feels like ever. I have missed you guys. 70 degrees, baseball conversation, more importantly, Jason, Sterling, my boys, let's get back at it.
Dude, I mean, this weather is so perfect to start our conversations with you. If it was a few weeks ago, it'd be like, oh my God, it's 0 degrees. It doesn't feel like it. But it's 72 degrees today and clear skies, and it is baseball weather, man. This is so beautiful. My little man has another practice tonight out on the field. Dude, it's just outdoor practices here in Kansas City. Man, I am pumped. I'm getting chills thinking about baseball already, and it's right around the corner, dude. I'm so pumped to talk to you this year.
No doubt. Me too, man. And we always talk about it, but keep enjoying those times with little man. I mean, getting on the field and getting those practices running, man, and just enjoying watching him grow up and playing, doing what he loves, man. I miss it, but I'm excited for you. I'm gonna live vicariously through your stories, buddy.
Les, I have an idea. How about you get a fungo and you just rip balls at him? Just let him know. So just really set the tone, Les.
Yeah. You can do that after I'm done doing it. So you can do it at 5:30 in the morning because we work from 4 in the morning until 5:30 in the morning. We do wind sprints. We do stairs. We run a lot of poles that we're running. We take some infield. Then we work on short hops. And then we do a full bullpen session every day. And at 5:30, it's ready to go, Les, for you. So.
Yeah. I'm at grandpa
or none of that
phase
happens.
now. I'm not a grandpa yet. My kids got time, but I'm of the age of it, so that only classifies me as good cop. I will not be doing that.
There you go. Yeah, no, none of that happens. He gets home from school, and we either shoot baskets or sometimes we hit off the tee or we just hang out.
You won't be Adam Morrison. It's the Adam Morrison workout, the 4 a.m. Shooting hoops.
No doubt. All right, Les, how you feeling? I worry, and I don't want to get the conversation of the summer started off on this tone, but I do want to at least bring it up because this is my true feeling, so I don't want to fake it. I worry this year about the feeling around the team because last year felt really unexpected and came out of nowhere from, hey, competing to, oh, my goodness, now we were worried about them blowing a lead and not making the wild card and not making the playoff. And this year, I do worry that there'll be expectations to a level that people may not have as much fun as they had last year since it came out of nowhere. And this year, if they're expecting an improvement from 86 wins, and let's say they get 85 wins, which is still a good season, and miss the playoffs, I feel like people will view that as a disappointment when, in the grand scheme of things, where they were 2 years ago to where they are now is such a massive improvement. So that's my honest, real, true feeling right now is a couple of weeks away from opening day that I do worry that there could be a level of more complaints this year than enjoyment of like, oh, my gosh, this is coming out of nowhere, and look at these pitchers and what Waka and Lugo and Reagans are doing and Bobby Witt and look at Salvi like it was last year versus now those are all expected to happen this year.
Yeah, man, fans are fickle, and I get it. I understand it. Your expectations are usually only bent on yesterday, and then your strong negative opinions are bent on tomorrow. So it's amazing how that happens all the time. But, the irony of us starting back up today to record for my show later on, I just got off the phone with J.J. Piccolo for an hour, had an incredible conversation. We got him early. It's 2 hours behind there, so we got him early because he likes to get up in the morning. I mean, it's literally the only time of the day that he has to himself where he can clear his mind because, then he goes to the gym, has breakfast, goes to the gym, and then gets after it until, what he'll say, he passes out on the couch at night, just getting ready for the next day kind of thing. So fans are going to be like that no matter what, but based on what they've done in the offseason, most people are going to say, oh, we needed that big bat. I get it. The Royals were in on some of those deals. Just didn't, again, it's just the Royals. It's the market. It's the ownership still getting their feet wet. But it shouldn't be one of those situations where, oh, they made it last year, they have to make it this year. How about we wait until near the All-Star break before we start to really see what's going on? I mean, it's still spring training. There's still 2 weeks left.
No,
everybody
Les.
who
No nuance.
Well,
no nuance, Les. Come on now.
Well, all I want to say to all of our fans that are on the Jack bandwagon, Jack is not going to break with the big league club.
You're talking to the vice president, maybe president of the fan club, Jason Anderson, right now.
I just love how he wears a uniform, Les. I just love how he wears a uniform, man. He can fill one out.
I love how he wears his street clothes too. I mean, holy cow!
I love how he holds a bat. I love how he holds himself as he's walking around the clubhouse. I love all of it. I love how far he hits home runs, how hard he hits baseballs. I love all of those things. I love that I am trying to sneak into the clubhouse so I can burn his outfield glove and cut it up so they don't try to move him out there as a 260-pound guy running around in the outfield chasing fly balls and ground balls and stuff like that. I love everything about that.
He's a 4-1 to 4-2 to first base with that frame. So he's going to play first base and probably DH. But, I mean, when you're that fast, that says that maybe you can play some outfield. So we might see Indy out there in left field a little bit. We might see Massey out there in left field a little bit this year. So, I mean, they're not the size of Big Jack, but you can't close your mind off to the fact if it gets him to the big leagues quicker when his bat's ready, I don't mind him playing a little bit of outfield.
Let me you know what? Let's do it. Let's talk about Jack Caglione. It hasn't been done this spring training, and I don't know why people are ignoring him, Les. So let's get and have a conversation about him.
And the first question is going to be who wore tighter pants? Was it you, Les, or was it Jack Caglione?
I think Jack Caglione might be wearing Les's old pants right now. The way those things are fitting his frame.
Look,
I mean,
let me tell you what. You got most people in foreign countries. Like anytime, like use those elephant legs as umbrella holders. I mean, can you have a pair of pants big enough to fit a musclehead like that? I mean, holy cow!
It's crazy, man.
It looks like me wearing my son's, full disclosure. Now in softball, I'm at the age now where I'm pitching and letting the kids play the slow pitch stuff, and so I forgot that you're really, really close. I had to wear like my son's cup from like when he was 12 years old yesterday, which might have saved my life, but still destroyed me had I got hit. So I feel Jack's pain to some extent, but if I had that physique, I wouldn't worry about the tight pants. I would just be dropping bombs.
Not at all. Les Norman is our guest from Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Okay, let's talk about Jack Caglione, and we'll get into the potential positional change for potentially this year for what could be a potential call-up later on in the season if his bat, reaches some of that potential in Double-A and maybe even Triple-A. But when you watch him in camp so far and OPSing over 2 and having the extra base hits and the exit velocity of 115 and greater, what are you seeing with that, and how much do you maybe, because it's spring training and you've been there, done that, do you have to temper, if at all maybe, your excitement and enthusiasm for what Jack Caglione is doing so far?
Well, the first half of me always wants to say, I say it every year at this time, don't get so caught up in spring training. There's pitchers that are throwing the veteran pitchers are throwing fastballs a lot more because they're trying to get their arm up. There are a lot of times a lot of minor league pitchers that are filling innings in spring training, so they're not going to maybe be as good as obviously the big league pitchers on any given day. And so I don't take a lot of stock in spring training, but with Jack, I think there is a big positive there because guys that are 6'5", 250 shouldn't move like him, shouldn't be as athletic in the swing. They walk cruisers and me hit home run, me hit far, me hit 250, that okay. And I don't know that that's going to be him. I mean, he's got a body that's bodybuilder type, but he's got a swing that is elite major league hitter type. His hands are short. His swing is smooth. Darn lefties and their giftedness. He seems like he's got good pitch awareness. He's going deep into at bats. That home run he hit the other day was like an 8 or 9 pitch at bat. I think he hit like the 8 or 9th pitch for the home run and a 3-2 elevated fastball. He hit a first pitch fastball, so he's not impatient, but yet if he gets a pitch he can drive, he's going after it. So you're seeing really good athleticism. You're seeing advanced maturity. You're seeing a guy that is calm and not thinking too much. You can still see that joyful, youthful exuberance on his face as he's playing. So I just think you're seeing a lot more of a makeup that usually takes guys 2 or 3 years that are drafted that high to even start to show signs of it. And so I'm not going to push him to get a September call-up this year. I mean, he hasn't had a full year in the minor leagues yet. I am pushing for a 26 if he's ready. Not, well, I don't care if you're ready or not. You're coming at 26. You know, JJ made a great point, and don't let that, for all our listeners, go ahead and tune in to Breaking the Norm later. I'm not going to reveal the whole show now. But he made a great point about Jack that, you know, he has to be able to fit what the Royals need. We still had this guy named Bobby Witt Jr. on this team, and, you know, this Vinny Pasquantino guy, and Salvi's still there. Jack's development has to be able to fit the team, and they want him to get there as soon as possible to be able to play with these guys if he's going to be part of the future. But if you rush it, you're going to disrupt what the Royals already have to work with. And it's not the Royals catering to Jack so much as that Jack has to get ready for his development to get to the big leagues to fit this team. So there's so many great things I see with his swing, his speed, his control, his maturity, but it still needs to develop to help make the Royals team good, not just get Jack ready.
Does it, and you mentioned maybe not really necessarily pushing for a September call-up or anything. I don't know what the dates would be for somebody to go, and somebody can do it, to see how many days he could be up in the big leagues or what the 45 days would be, because 45 days to –
hang on 1 second there, Les.
Yeah, I don't know why we lost you. Sorry.
He was just making a really great point, and they were trying to shut him down. So here's what we'll do. We will take a quick break here, Les, and then we'll come back here, and we'll get it all figured out, brother.
I'll get off the Bluetooth, too.
All right, man. We'll be right back here on The Zone with Jason Anderson and Sterling Holmes live at the Big 12 Tournament.
So, a funny story, Les. We were, I was asking the question, and then, waiting for an answer, and didn't hear anything. So I thought you dropped. So Sterling and I are just sitting here talking and
playing grab ass.
That's exactly what we were doing. Talking about, we'll get Les back, and here's this what I want, and that, and we'll talk with him about this thing and that thing, and just randomly I was thinking about the PPI stuff, but we can move on from that and ask him some other questions. And then I look over and I'm like, oh, we're off the air. We're the ones that dropped.
And we made the best jokes of all time, the best points. It was the best.
It always happens.
Segment in the world.
Best radio ever. Les, best radio ever. Let's skip the whole PPI thing. We'll get at later on this summer. It's just something to think about. But is there anything that you take away from, like, we talked about him being available at number 6 in the draft.
Yep.
And there were 3 position players taken ahead of him: Bazana, Charlie Condon, and then Nick Kurtz. And Jack Caglione's in Major League Camp doing this. Bazana is in minor league camp, didn't start in the major league camp. Charlie Condon started in the minor league camp as well. Nick Kurtz just today got sent down to minor league camp. He batted .250 with 1 home run. It was the only extra base hit he had in his 20 at-bats. Again, it's all the small sample size stuff, but does that tell you anything about maybe his development, or maybe is that organizationally of what their needs are as an organization, Cleveland and Colorado and the A's, as opposed to the Royals with Caglione starting in Major League Camp and performing like this? And the Royals have made some moves and sent some players down to minor league camp already. It just is not Jack Caglione.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, first and foremost, based on needs, one of the things was the Royals needed a power bat and a big lefty power bat. Obviously, Caglione fit that role. I think that the Royals realize that the University of Florida does a kind of a pretty good job of developing players. I mean, they've kind of got some things going on. I mean, Jonathan India, we just got him for the leadoff spot, and he's a Florida guy. And so I think the Royals trust that is a program that gets guys ready. So I think that that's part of it as well. And let's face it, I mean, we're joking around about how big he is and all those things. But, again, even during the college season in the World Series, you saw him be able to handle at-bats, even with his size, even with not playing professional baseball. He's already gotten to a point where he handles himself really well. He's the best hitters get pitched the toughest, and he's handled himself really, really well. He can take counts deep. He can use the whole field. He's got that kind of power. He's got that demeanor and all of that. So I think it was a great pick for multiple reasons. And not every Royals fans need to understand, too, that not every first-round pick is going to have a spring training like this. Not every first-round pick is going to end up being a productive, long-term big league player. It doesn't always work that way. It's worked with this Bobby Witt Jr. kid that people, may remember. And they're probably, health-wise, if everything works out okay, they're probably going to remember Jack as well. But, I don't think this was a lucky pick. I think that it slotted perfectly. I think it was a situation where a lot of different things fell into place, and I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised at how well he's doing consistently. I think sometimes you maybe see more flashes of it, and then the learning curve is a little quicker with these first-pick guys. But still, overall, I think they're right on track, and it's another reason why I don't want to press him for the September 2025 call-up, although – if he's doing really, really well and he starts in Double-A and then goes to Triple-A at the break and he's hitting, on pace to hit 30 home runs and he's hitting 320, okay, force the hand. That's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
But let's not bank on it. Let's just let him get developed so he gets here and be an everyday productive impact player.
And let me just point out, it is apples and apples with those other picks because everybody was a college pick: Oregon State, Georgia, and Wake Forest, and then Florida. So they didn't. Not one of those guys was a high school guy. It was like, oh, he started in minor league camp. Yeah, no duh. Of course he started in minor league camp. He's 12 years old. But no, they were all college guys that were selected there. Last one on Jack Caglione, I promise, and then we'll move on to some other things. I don't know if this came up in your conversation with J.J. Piccolo or not. I know you covered a lot of different things, but how important do you think it is to the organization to see him fail in the minor leagues? That sounds that sounds counterintuitive, right? But to see him go through a slump, I should say, is a better way of presenting it. To see how he reacts. Has Jack Caglione ever been in a slump in his life to where he just is not seeing the ball the way that he's seen the ball? Since he was probably a 6 foot, 10-year-old. I mean, how important do you think it is to the organization for him to go down to Double-A? You want him to continue to develop, but how is it important for this organization to see him go through a slump and work out of it in the minor leagues rather than he's killed it, he's been awesome, he comes up to the big leagues, and he will hit a slump? Like, you don't want his first stretch of rough baseball to be with a third deck and 20,000 fans watching him go through that.
Well, that's another reason to bring a guy like him to big league camp, because, one, there's no expectations. And so if you go off and do well like he's doing, they're going to be in his ear saying, okay, now it's not going to be like that. This is the spring, and here's the reasons why it's just spring. And if he goes on there and still continues on, hey, that's great. But they understand and they're going to be letting him know that the regular season is not like spring training. And so now if he goes down there, he knows he can do it, so there's confidence. It's a beautiful thing to allow a guy to learn how to respond during adversity. You just said that, Jason. And in talking with JJ, we talked a lot about the mental game. And sure, there's a little bit of statistical paying attention to in spring training, but the majority is when you have competition. I think they've got like 3 spots. You mentioned there's a bench spot open and 2 bullpen spots open. There's only 3 spots on that roster. And so does performance and statistics matter? Of course they do, but they also matter. Are you hitting the ball hard consistently? Say you're only hitting 200, but you're hitting rockets all over the place. Are you struggling, and are you carrying it over onto your defense when you have a bad at bat? Are you consistently struggling mentally and taking yourself out of it? Are you hitting 300, but are you dinking everything all over the place because you're having bad at bats? You're just on a lucky streak right now. And so they need him to be able to have some adversity just to see how he's going to respond. Because look, if he goes down to the minor league season and destroys it, okay, that's great. But then you still haven't had adversity yet. The best players in the world have stretches of adversity. The highest paid players in the game have some stretches of adversity. They're just maybe a little bit shorter than the average big leaguer, the average player. And so it is important for that to happen, but yet you're not going to put him in a situation where it is going to happen. Let him develop, see how he responds. If you're a 25th rounder, you're not going to get as many chances if you have adversity. The Royals are a class organization, and they'll help no matter who's within their organization, and they're not going to give special treatment to the higher picks. However, those higher picks are going to get more chances, and you do want them to have difficult times so you can see them get through adversity, because adversity makes you a better hitter. It makes you a better mental player. It makes you a better teammate, and in the end, it'll make you a better leader when you're in the game a while and the young guys are coming up. And so having adversity and how you deal with it is a huge part of a player's development, especially one that you have a lot invested in.
Visiting with Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com and First Federal Bank of Kansas City.
Let's talk about your favorite player, baby. A man who has overhauled his entire swing and approach. And you said don't look too much into spring training, but I'm going to, baby. This guy is OPSing over 1,000, batting 300. Be still my beating heart. That is MJ Melendez, absolutely raking right now.
Did you need to say his name? I think everybody knew.
For the first-time listeners that maybe
Yes.
have not understood that your favorite player, MJ Melendez.
Your favorite swing to watch.
Your favorite swing, too, from the well, I don't know. He needs more movement back, right? Like, you think that the vibes were really made his swing so important, and now all of a sudden it's really too quiet for you? Is that what you're saying? His head is actually too still?
What's that all about? Weird.
Yeah, none of the above, for sure. Yeah, we did talk about this for sure, and that will be coming up later in the show today, and then the replay on Saturday morning as well. So when I first started off, I never hit with a wood bat before. And I was struggling. Just even in batting practice, I couldn't get a ball to the warning track. I was trying to muscle up. My head was moving. I didn't have the proper weight shift. I couldn't hit behind the ball. All the nerdy little hitting things that I can talk about all day, I just wasn't able to do it. And Tom Poquette just kind of watched me hit. And finally, I went to him, which is what he was waiting for. And I said, Pokey, man, this wood bat thing, I'm just not learning it. I can't do it on my own. I've never hit with it before. So what do I do? And he says, well, if you don't give up what you think you know, your first year is going to be your last year. And man, that hit me hard. And it was real and it was legitimate. And so, he said, hey, come early, stay late. I'll invest in you if you're willing to do it. But if that first time that you say, I just don't want to hit today, I'm done. And so that's what I did. And I made the adjustments and I sacrificed statistics. I sacrificed at bats to believe in the process, to know that if I worked hard enough, there was going to be results, or I wasn't meant to play the game. I wasn't what I thought I was. And if you put in all your effort, you got to be okay with that. And so at the end of last season, that was MJ Melendez. He knew that his lower half was too busy. A lot of people that I've heard talk hitting say, he rolls over too much, and when he stays on the ball, he can hit. And that's true, but when your head is moving and your lower half is moving and there's so much movement, you get beat oftentimes. And the only way when you get beat to not strike out is to roll over so your barrel gets there a little quicker and catches up. Now, all you're doing is avoiding a strikeout, because what you end up doing is popping up to the opposite side and rolling over to the pull side. And so MJ has made that adjustment. The first few days of spring training, it was a struggle, but now he's hitting more consistently. He's not getting beat on inside fastballs like he used to, because his head is still, which clears his hands to be able to get there. When your head's still, your hips can clear. When your hips can clear, your hands can get there. And he's doing that. And so I'm not going to be too hard on MJ until maybe about a month and a half into the season. He's still been playing good defense, so we'll let that go for now. But again, we talked about it earlier. You've got Jonathan India that can play outfield. You've got Michael Massey that can play outfield. So if it doesn't work and he's seen his best days, MJ Melendez, then we do have options. Plus, you've got minor league guys that can come up over time and fill that. So he's working hard. Zumwalt and the guys are doing a good job making those adjustments. But the beautiful thing is that mentally and emotionally, MJ is buying in. He knows the adjustments. He's not stubborn. Some big league hitters are stubborn, and they go with what they know, especially when things happen that aren't easy, when difficulty comes, which digs you a bigger hole. But he's finally been humble enough to say, look, I need to change. I want to be a big league hitter. I don't want to hit 20 home runs and hit 199. That's not going to cut it. And so I think you're going to see a little bit more of a change. If you don't, he understands the game, and you'll see somebody in there to replace him.
Visiting with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, truckmovers.com. First Federal Bank of Kansas City presents Les Norman. Another player who had a rough season last year, was better 2 years ago with the bat, and that was Michael Garcia. Whether he was putting too much pressure on himself to be the leadoff hitter, whatever it might be. What do you think about his addition of, well, now there's a toe tap, or the placement of the bat on his shoulder, that he spent the offseason. Look, the man loves baseball. All right, he and Salvi may be the two people that love baseball the most on this team, because he goes back to Venezuela and plays in the winter leagues and wins and tries to win a championship. He doesn't take any time off. Well, this year, having to recover from an injury and doing rehab and staying in Kansas City, didn't play in the Winter League in Venezuela and stayed around the facilities and was able to sit back, watch film, reassess his swing, what went wrong this year as opposed to last year, which, could be for the best. So he did a couple of different tweaks into his swing. And how much of a difference can it be? Like, okay, I'm adding a toe tap, or I'm taking away a small little toe tap. Okay, I did this. Why did I change from 23 to 24? Why did I change what I was doing in 23 to come into 24 and to have my timing and my load a little bit different? And do I just need to go back to that? What was the reasoning then? And am I now panicking instead of staying with the process? What do you think of Michael Garcia, not revamping, but tweaking what his swing was last year to try to get back to 2023?
Well, they went and got him for a reason, and I think they love him enough for him to relax, at least mentally, to know that they're going to stay with him and they're going to stay through the process. And he is a good hitter. And when he does have good timing for a wiry guy, he's got crazy pop, and he can spray the ball over the field. So he's got a chance, I feel like, to be a perennial 300 hitter. I think nobody in the organization should have been more excited for the signing of Jonathan India than Maikel Garcia. I mean, he's not a leadoff hitter. He did a good job for not being a leadoff hitter in that role where he could. It was a little streaky, but still, he did an amicable job. But it was just one of those situations where he needed to be out of that role. He's probably a 6-7 hitter at best, and would be I think he could be one of the best lower half of the lineup hitters in not just the American League, but all of baseball. And he needs to probably get that right, is that on that right-handed side, because I came up with a stat, again, not the stat guy, but I accidentally fell into this weird stat that if the starting rotations hold during the season in the AL Central, starters-wise, of the 4 teams the Royals were faced, there are only 2 left-handed pitchers in the starting rotations. I think the White Sox have one and Detroit has one. Wow. Minnesota and Cleveland, all right-handed hitters. In the American League, there's only 13 left-handed starters out of the 70 that the Royals are going to face. And so their right-handed hitters really need to be bolstered. I mean, Renfroe should be licking his chops and having another opportunity to get back at it. So, and the final point there is that whether it's a toe tap or your bat is flat or whatever, if you struggled previously or over a couple of years you've been on decline, and then all of a sudden you start hitting the ball hard, it may or may not be the reason, but you need to make yourself believe that's the reason, because mentally and emotionally, this game will wear you out. If you stress all the time, you cannot go up to the batter's box and think. And so if spring training, it's the toe tap, it's the flat bat, and that's helping my timing, watch all the film you want. You can be really good on film. You can be really good in batting practice and in spring training. But the bottom line is, on March 27th, you got to be ready to go. And if the one thing that's going to make you a confident hitter is the toe tap, and that's going to give you good timing, then by all means believe in it, and then go watch the film. And then if it's working, then you can say, okay, this is my long-term change, and this is going to revamp my career. So, George Brett did it with Charlie Lau. Hopefully MJ Melendez will do it. There have been a lot of guys that made adjustments in their lives that was the key to them adjusting. And hopefully if it's the toe tap and the flatter bat, then Maikel Garcia, you go ahead and latch onto that and just be a better hitter.
Yeah, I was finding some of the clips from finding a couple of quotes, I should say, from Alex Zumwalt and saying that the issues that they talked about in the offseason, he said that Maikel Garcia owned it. He said, so Garcia added a small toe tap, which he's done before, and thinks it will help him in his timing after seeing how many balls he fouled back or to the right last year. His weight was too much on his front foot. He was trying to attack the baseball too early. Alex Zumwalt calls it crashing. And he said, he gets the foot down, everything's coming behind it with no ability to stop. He said, so, Maikel's always in go mode, and it's hard to adjust. And if you guess right, looks good. You guess wrong, you miss. And then that's when he said, we've talked about getting him away from crashing. He owned it and said that, that's the work that he's put in this offseason, is to keep his weight back on his back foot, wait for the pitch, and not get out front and try to hammer it and attack the baseball. And the toe tap from 2023 will help him get the timing back to stay back on the baseball and not, as Zumwalt is saying, crashing towards the baseball. So maybe that's a big difference. Maybe that changes everything for him. Hopefully it does. And it's not just one of those spring training things that, no, I did this and I did that. And it seems pretty legit when you got the pitching or with the hitting coach talking about, this is what we did in the offseason. This is the adjustment. This was the problem. And he owned it. It's not like he's fighting it. He owned it, and he's clearly taking that into spring training to adjust from being a guy that was, I think, trying to add power to his swing. As opposed to being a line drive hitter, gap to gap, and try to bat close to 300, not 25 home runs.
Jason, the one thing that we need to talk about, the common denominator here, and it hasn't been like this in other teams, and hasn't been like this in a long time. I mean, you think about Brady Singer's big hang-up is he didn't want to own the fact that he should have threw more change-ups, and he's not here anymore. It's one of the reasons he's not here anymore, because he was stubborn and he didn't want to make changes. And you can make changes, and you can make them reluctantly. But regardless of that, this organization, and one of the reasons I respect Alex Zumwalt is the fact that he's holding people accountable. I mean, you have to be able to be accountable, because if you're not accountable, you're out of a job. Now, again, if you've got a lot of dollars invested, you might get more opportunities than someone that doesn't have as much. You can become expendable if you have a lower contract. But holding hitters accountable and using verbiage like, look, we're gonna stay with you for a while, but eventually, if there's no change, we've got other options. You know, big boy pants need to be worn at all times as a major league player. And so Melendez and Garcia holding themselves accountable and admitting they need to change and admitting to work on it, at least gives them that respect, like, okay, we are going to stay with you, and hard work is going to pay off in one way or the other. You may not hit 300, you may not become an all-star, I don't know, but good change is going to happen if you stay with it. It makes you more valuable, it extends your career, and it's a great way to lead, because even the best players struggle. So being accountable, and this organization holding hitters to being accountable, and every player for that matter, is a huge reason why this team is destined to get back to the top.
Well, he's got 23 at-bats, and he's batting .350, so it's all fixed, Les. We know that about spring
Great
training
start.
numbers.
Yeah,
Everything
it's
is good.
All fixed.
Everything.
We're done.
All fixed. Now, there you go. Les, we are not done. We have only just begun, and that is our conversations on Tuesday with Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Again, tell people where they can hear that entire show, that conversation you just had with J.J. Piccolo with Breaking the Norm, this hour-long discussion. I can't wait to hear it. Where's that going to be? And also the replay, too.
Absolutely. So today, 4 o'clock, we're going to air that thing on 1510. You'll be able to catch that there. And then the replay will be Saturday morning at 7 a.m. on Sports Radio 810. And then after it airs, I'm going to put it up on podcast in our podcast section on 810WHB.com. He's only done 2 out of the 3 segments, but he's still on 98% of the show. So those first 2 segments are long. And, he's just got some great information. We had some great conversations about so much more. So make sure you tune in.
Les Norman. Les, you're the man. Really appreciate the time. Cannot wait to get these things rolling, brother. Have a good day.
Absolutely. You too, guys. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. There's Les Norman joining us again. Breaking the Norm. TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, presenting Breaking the Norm today, 4 o'clock. That conversation with J.J. Piccolo on 1510, Saturday, 7 in the morning, right here on Sports Radio 810. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes. Todd Lebo will join us coming up in the 1 o'clock hour.
Fact.
Yeah. Are we going to play Fact or Fiction with, oh, my goodness, he's there.
Oh, he's right here. It's terrifying, actually.
He's staring in. Who is this person? I was like, we're not in a fishbowl,
Sir,
man.
sir,
Please,
this is a
please don't-
sanctioned studio.
please don't tap on the glass. It scares
Don't
the fish.
touch me.
It scares the fish. Please don't feed the animals, sir.
We haven't.
not
You didn't even shut the
feed
door.
the
Our
animals.
HR department just waltzed in here and grabbed me.
Sterling, you know why he didn't shut the doors? Because you started hitting him when he walked in the door.
I did not hit him. He hit me. Let the record show.
I kind of feel like there's a meeting that
And
needs to
now
be had
he's
with you
stealing
and somebody
things out of
else.
here. This man is.
It is a fact. We will talk with Todd Lebo coming up in the 1 o'clock hours. We are hanging out at the Big 12 tournament. You can join Sports Radio 810 WHB and Miller Lite for the Miller Lite Fan Fest presented by WHB. And it's live here at the KC Live Block, the Power and Light District, for the men's Big 12 basketball tournament. Pep rallies and watch parties and contests and live music and great food and cold Miller Lite with this beautiful week. It is all brought to you by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, River Bluff Brewery, and Church of the Resurrection. So Les Norman brought up something there that I thought was interesting. It was a passing comment as he was talking about his conversation with J.J. Piccolo. And he said there are only 3 spots open on this team. He said J.J. said 1 bench spot and then a couple of arms in the bullpen. So if there's only 1 bench spot, I mean, we talked about who were the potential utility guys. Whether that
we
be
assumed that, yeah.
Biggio, Blanco,
Velasquez, Lofton.
Weimer, guys like that, Prado, Lofton, who would be these utility players, the bench players for the Royals, and apparently 2 of them have already made the team.
I'm going to go ahead and say Kevin Biggio's one.
I think Kevin Biggio's probably one.
I'll say Kevin Biggio's one.
I'll say Blanco for the speed off the bench to steal some bases late. That that Q loves to have that option there late in games. So
Okay.
I think Blanco's a guy they love using late in games. He can play in the outfield.
Sure. So then it comes down to Lofton, Weimer,
Prado,
Velasquez.
Yeah, that's true.
I've gone Weimer.
Drew Waters.
I've gone Weimer, by the way. I feel like Weimer, maybe he's the guy and it's not Blanco.
Yeah.
I do feel like Biggio is. If you were to say which one is the safest right now, I would say Biggio.
Yeah.
I do think Weimer
that as
has,
well.
and maybe because Weimer has, I think, options correct. Is Velasquez out of options?
He is. He and Prado are both out of options.
So maybe Velasquez gets first shot, but
I mean, Weimer can play center field, but if they feel like Michael Garcia, who's been playing center field, can be more of a super utility role, then do they need Weimer to play center field, or do they want him to go down to AAA and continue to get more seasoning, whatever that might be? Or is it Drew Waters, who got on base at 380 last year at AAA? But there is a reason of what was going on behind the scenes with Drew Waters. I don't think it's Waters. I don't think
the
it's
ship
him.
has seemingly sailed. Whatever reason,
Yeah.
whatever reason it is.
Yeah.
He's dead in the
I
waters.
will tell you, I'm looking up now.
Lebo shook his head at that pun. I think he's dead in the waters.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
marked.
I heard. No, I heard you. I was moving on.
What? Lebo did not like that one. He shook his head. It was a heavy shake.
So Annie Rogers has put out her predicted opening day lineup or opening day roster, and for bench and utility, the 3 players she has: Biggio, Blanco, and Prado. So
wow.
Yeah, because the other people don't have an O finishing off their name. So that apparently is what J.J. Piccolo thought and Quattrero said was mucho dinero, importante for them to play-o.
Bobby Widow.
That's a good point, yes. Blanco, Biggio, Prado for Piccolo and Quattrero is what Annie Rogers
I would be shocked if Prado made the roster.
Prado may get the first shot just simply because he's out of options.
But where do you put him?
Well, he's working in the outfield, and
Well, I know
not that he's good.
Yeah,
I'm just saying he's working in the outfield. Okay?
Yeah,
I'm rebounding for my son. I'm not sure I'll be Dennis Rodman anytime soon, but I am rebounding for my son.
I'll give you Charles Oakley at least.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Oak Tree. That's what I've always been called my entire life. But no, he's a guy that can play first base because they need more first basemen. That's the thing. So they need Salvi. And they need Vinny. Well, they don't have as many first basemen now that Jack Caglione apparently, could play outfield.
Well, it's like I've just, for me, I thought Prado was almost in the Drew Waters category for me, I wasn't even considering.
The fact that
Prado.
Amy Rodgers is predicting this after having conversations with different people and saying that, her conversation with General Manager J.J. Piccolo on Sunday saying, quote, we've put more thought into that more than anything else is the bench role, the utility guys. And then her prediction is that Nick Prado is on the team. I will add more weight to just rather than me going to 810WHB.com and saying here's Jason's 26-man roster prediction, where she's there every day talking to them, seeing how they're being used, how they're playing, conversations after the game with the manager, random catch-ups with the general manager, and her pick is Prado.
Bullpen, 2 spots, because I'm starting to think Carlos Hernandez is working his way out of a role.
I'll just tell you now, as I've got her latest roster prediction that came out yesterday, the bullpen is the main arms you would expect: Ursig, Estevez, and Harvey, Stratton and Schreiber and Zerpa.
Stratton's slightly surprising.
Okay, so Schreiber, Zerpa. Let's just say that. Ursig, Estevez, Harvey, Schreiber, Zerpa.
Sure.
Would be the 5 that are there. And then you'd have 3 more. She has Stratton, Long, and Lynch are the 3 that she went with.
Stratton's the biggest surprise there for me. I know the contract and all that stuff, but
I just wonder about Daniel Lynch. I know the Royals would like him to be with the big league club because he's been good out of the bullpen and he's been really good in spring training. But I brought this – I can't remember who I talked to about this. It may have been Joel Penfield, where I said, is Daniel Lynch pitching so well that he's pitching himself off the opening day roster?
And back into a starter's
And back into
role.
We're sending him to AAA so that he stays a starter, that if we need help, we'll bring Daniel Lynch up, as opposed to, Lynch has been fine. Would he get enough innings? Would he be stretched out enough from time to time to where if you need a spot start, Daniel Lynch is the guy to go with? Or maybe Daniel Lynch plays, or they use him as middle relief, long relief, or they use him as a spot starter opener to where, well, this is what he typically does. We're going to get 3 innings from Daniel Lynch, and then we're going to back that up with Stratton or Schreiber or something along those lines. And that's going to be the role for Daniel Lynch. And he stays on the big league club because they just simply want him a part of the bullpen.
It is interesting that she had Carlos Hernandez off.
Yeah.
Because he was,
He's
I
out of
don't say a
options
lot,
too.
but he has, I think, pitched his way off of this team.
Yep. But he's just, how many opportunities does he have to show that he can pitch at the big league level, that he's not just throwing a straight 99-mile-an-hour fastball? Like, it's the big leagues, man. That ball's going to have to be on different places on the axis and not right in the center of the bullseye if you're throwing, 99. No matter how fast you're throwing. Todd Lebo next. One more hour to go as we are hanging out at the Big 12 tournament. It is KC Live Block Power and Light Miller Lite Fan Fest. And it's for the men's Big 12 basketball tournament. Team pep rallies, watch parties, contests, live music, great food, and cold Miller Lite. And Sterling Holmes on stage in about an hour. And it is presented by the CW Farm and Ranch venue, River Bluff Brewery, and Church of the Resurrection. And Todd Lebo is with us in the studio here out at Power and Light. What is up, Todd?
I think Oklahoma State's in trouble here in this first one. They're down
What?
19 with 11 minutes to go.
That's nothing.
Cincinnati looks like they're probably going to advance in that one.
If
Four
they-
games. First time we've ever had 4 games on
Yeah.
a Tuesday down here. at the
If they
Big
just
12.
make up 1 point every minute, they only lose by 8.
It's so good.
I mean, so that's perfectly fine.
It's just maths.
Yes. By the way, some news in the NFL. I don't know. I mean, we could play the breaking news sounder, but it isn't officially breaking news. It's expected breaking news. There is news that the 49ers are releasing Leonard Floyd. Going to be 33 this year, a guy who's had almost double-digit sacks, like 6 years in a row. They're releasing him because the expectation is that they are bringing a reunion of the Bosa brothers. Joey Bosa heading to San Francisco to play with his brother Nick Bosa. So releasing Leonard Floyd, a man who had 8.5 sacks this year, 10.5 last year, 9.5, 10.5. Those are his last 5 years in the NFL. Played 17 games for Joey Bosa, who played non-17 game seasons. Looks like
He's
this
been
is
involved in some of the games.
That's true. Looks
for
like
his
it's
team.
a 1-for-1. You think Nick Bosa had something to say about bringing his brother Joey Bosa along and what it would
Maybe.
take to be able to do that? But
What's
Leonard Floyd
wild
out.
is Floyd has actually – you're right. Floyd's been much more productive than Bosa over the past 5
and
seasons.
much more available.
And yet no one
I'd love to have Leonard Floyd.
feels
on
like
a-
no one puts
I'd-
him in the same category.
I'd love Leonard Floyd on a 1-year deal. Chiefs have done that before. Melvin Ingram, Carlos Dunlap, they've the Suggs. They've had older guys to play defensive end on shorter contracts.
He's a
just
Spags
sort of-
guy, like as far as
Yes.
height and weight
Yeah.
goes. He just screams Spagnolo. So
Yep,
I agree.
6'3", 240. Yeah, if Leonard Floyd is available on a 1-year deal that's reasonable.
What do you call it
I
if
like
it's
it.
not nepotism, but like it's brotherism?
Bropetism.
Like with Bosa? Because like I feel like that's
Boism.
what's going on.
Bosa is.
Brosis.
Bosa-ism.
Yeah,
we got
yes,
there.
doesn't that
I
still
like
fall under nepotism? If you're getting a
Sure,
job for a brother.
Probably.
It's a
Probably,
family.
but-
For this one, yes, because Nick is clearly better than Joey. And so this is like when J.R. Smith accepted a contract with the Knicks as long as his brother Chris Smith had a job
Kurt
that year.
Schottenheimer.
Uh,
Here we go.
I mean, Chris Smith had to be on the Knicks
Bronny
for a full
James.
year. Yeah, well, yes, there you go. That is
not his
nepotism
brother.
to it, but that's the father son. We're looking at like brothers though,
So I was inside the arena for a while.
Giannis and Thanasis. Antetokounmpo.
right? That's again brothers.
Daniel
Guys
Jones is a Colt now, too. Is that what I see?
He is. There's the true competition with Anthony Richardson.
Indiana Jones.
I like that.
Wow. Okay, very good.
Gosh,
You know what?
I
you know
love
what, Dylan?
Dylan.
I don't care what happened out there. I'm giving him full credit for that one.
That was
Get
good.
a helmet
I'm
sticker.
giving him full. You get a helmet sticker.
You get
for
a
that
helmet
one.
sticker.
Hell
Dylan. That's
yes, man.
Damn good.
So
Good work.
what's going on inside the arena, Todd? Besides Oklahoma State being in real trouble, Peter Polk better get it figured out, man, or they're out one and done here.
You know what I also realized? I'll tell you what. We get so involved in the Chiefs that we kind of don't pay as much attention to college basketball till maybe last week or something. That's just kind of how it goes. I had forgotten. I have not watched a lot of Oklahoma State basketball. Okay, sorry, Mick. I had forgotten that Bryce Thompson, former McDonald's All-America 5-star Kansas recruit from 700 years ago, is still on Oklahoma State. How about that?
I was
How many years
shocked.
of eligibility.
I couldn't
I
believe
think this
Big
is
Country
fifth
was
year.
gone. Big Country's gone.
He's actually gone now.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. But I was like, I remember when he was a big recruit for Bill Self. It was like the class of whatever, I don't know, 20
Yeah,
maybe,
something
something
like
like that.
that, yeah.
And he was a big 5-star player and probably someone who thought he'd be in his second year of the NBA by now. He was from Tulsa. I do remember
Yeah.
that he was a home state guy, and then he transferred back after being at Kansas for a while. But he's still at Oklahoma State. That's kind of like how college basketball works now.
Yeah.
Look up, and you don't know who you're going to see on a team. So I learned that this morning,
Yeah.
and there's seats
Was-
available in there right now.
Was Edgerrin James there? Because he was here last year.
I did
Edgerrin-
not see him.
Okay, Edgerrin James was here last year watching the Cincinnati KU game.
Oh.
When Cincinnati gave KU all they could handle that particular night, without Hunter and without McCullough
Right.
played in that one, right? Last year. So Cincinnati.
I didn't see him.
Yeah, so.
But I was
Maybe
Maybe
they're
they're-
in his jersey.
Well, I was
Maybe he was just waiting for
upstairs.
tomorrow.
You know, we have the
I'm going to
new.
show up on Tuesday. I'll be there Wednesday, son.
I was down in the media room for a while. Went to this Brett Yormark press conference. Chit-chatted with a bunch of folks.
Yeah, I
You know,
wanna
saw
get your thoughts on
Blair
that in a
down
second.
there. Saw our buddy Dennis Dodd. Chatted
Yeah.
with him. Talked to Kathy Nelson for a little while
Nice.
from the Sports Commission. She and Brett Yormark had a press conference. Then, you know, the media is at the top now, all the way to the top. So you're not
Yeah.
down there with the fancy people, which I'm cool with. I'm not complaining. But it is up there.
Yeah.
The picture I sent you, that's
I
from
saw
up there.
that picture, and I was.
That's
it's like,
media now.
Are you at a Chiefs game?
We're not quite as high as the Chiefs game, but it is the top floor.
It's the top, yeah.
It only goes to 7
Look,
here, not 9. So
Maybe
it's a little
Edrin.
lower.
Maybe Edrin told his son, "Look, get past Oklahoma State, and I'll come watch you play Iowa State." But I'm not watching on Tuesday, 11:30 in the morning against Oklahoma State.
Hey, you guys have been watching when they walk through here. Have you seen someone wearing the colors of every team yet?
No, not yet.
I've seen some Colorado. I've seen a few Colorado.
No Arizona State yet?
I've not seen
I've seen
Arizona.
TCU.
I've seen TCU. I've seen
a
some
number of
Baylor folks, a lot of
TCUs.
Iowa State people already.
But also, they don't play
Yeah.
today. So if the 8 teams that play, Utah, UCF, K-State, Arizona State, TCU, Colorado, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, I've not seen a Utah because they're probably all in Vegas. And I've not seen
didn't get the word this thing
They're
moved.
not
They
happy
didn't-
about
no,
it.
they
Like,
didn't
I don't
understand.
care. I'll just watch it on TV in Vegas.
And I've not seen a UCF yet, but they're also the 8:30 p.m. game.
It's
So
true.
Maybe tonight we'll see a lot of Arizona State fans, whatever. It is weird. I'm not going to bemoan college athletics today. Okay, I will.
I'm on it.
When
you're a big bemoaner.
when there were more conferences and they were smaller, it was better. You really had rivalries, and I'll even go back old to the Big 8. How much fun it was to have just the
Kemper.
8 teams and Kemper Arena,
So
And
childhood memories, man.
everyone
Coming of
was
age
there.
at Kemper.
except maybe sometimes not Colorado. But, the fans were all there and everything. And I really do think that the first edition of the Big 12, it was a much more cohesive, better league than it is now. Okay, so there I am complaining.
You don't like
But-
watching UCF, Utah, the powerhouses of the Big 12 go at it?
No, and here's what I also don't like. Do you know in the ACC, you don't make the tournament? Just
Yeah, there's
Or
like
the Big
there's
10?
like 3 or 4 teams missing from
so
the,
if you
the Big
had
Ten.
if you had
Washington,
18 teams,
Washington
if
and
you had
Nebraska?
18 teams, how many teams would you have in your conference tournament? If you're going to have some teams miss,
If you had 18 teams
yeah, what would be the way to do it?
and only 2 teams,
No,
only
I just
teams,
how many?
teams have to miss.
Yeah, some teams have to miss. How
I
about
don't know, 16.
oh, it's 15 in the Big Ten. 3 don't make it. Look at their bracket. They're like
What?
weird teams. Look at their bracket. Look it up online and tell me if it makes sense. So there are 15 ACC teams because
Wow.
Notre Dame counts as an ACC team in basketball, and there are 15 teams in the Big Ten tournament, even though there are 18 teams in the Big Ten. So 3 don't make it.
Why not do a normal number like 12 or 16? So
Because
one gets a bye.
15 is the way to go.
Well,
That's the way.
Everybody knows 15.
you had to get
Someone's
Cal
going.
in there. Had to get Cal at 15. Sneak him in there.
You had to get them in. So at least this one is you got 16 teams. You're doing it the way the SEC's been doing it, the double bye.
Wait, how does 15 work?
Well, look, there's like one that there's a game on the second day that's already set.
The
and then
8-9.
There's
why is
3
8-9?
buys. There's 3 single buys, 4 double buys.
Well, anytime you could have the 8-9 get a bye,
Well,
you
here's
would
the deal.
totally have that
What
happen.
they did was they spit it all in there, and AI, ChatGPT, put that out for you, and that's the way
Okay.
it worked. And they both went to the same thing because they both got the same answer on how to do it. So here's the problem when you have 16 teams. If you have 16 teams, the chances of there being 3 or 4 bad teams or 5 bad teams and them being far away from where you are is pretty good. If you had 8 teams in your league, there are probably not 3 or 4 bad teams.
Yeah.
There's probably 2, and none of them are 1,800 miles from your city. where
So
you're having
the
this thing.
Pac-12's done it right by only having 2 teams.
That's right.
Are they having a tournament?
Let me look at Pac-12.
I don't think they
Best
are.
of 3
Yeah, you just
In
play
Vegas.
this thing
Championship
off,
game.
yeah.
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
time.
You made the finals again.
Neutral court.
Congratulations.
They're playing it in the Big Ten.
So this is our first time having 16. I asked Commissioner, what have the challenges been? And he
Yeah.
said, obviously, he said he was joking. He's made his job harder. He's traveled more places to see more things, okay? And they've had their issues with, UCF going to Utah and, different things like that. We're not all the way through all of the sports yet. When we get all the way through all the sports, when they get through baseball and softball, that will be some stuff like we really are, traveling a long way for some of these things. And they did a nice job. We had that weekend here where Kansas and Kansas State both went to Utah. They flip-flopped. They played, Baylor or BYU and Utah, and they've tried to do that. There was a question asked to the commissioner about, trying to do that. And they tried this year. I think they'll get better at it, as they go forward. And the breaking news from today was they're only going to have 18 league games next year, not 20. And that should make that a little easier. They had no bye this year, and they really want to have a week where you have a game instead of 2 games. And there's no way to do that if you're starting your season. I think they all played on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day this year, and you just don't have time to get all the games in.
Will they? Do you think they'll? I had a
news. Well, not really news. It's just I found this out, so it's news to me. Okay. Oregon State and Washington State, who were the 2 teams in the Pac-12, have apparently already played this entire year in the West Coast Conference.
Oh yeah, they're playing West Coast.
Right,
There
West
we
Coast
go.
Conference, that's very good for them.
You think they'll win the West Coast? Are they in there with St. Mary's? Probably not.
Tonight,
it's St. Mary's, Gonzaga, San Francisco Dons.
Is that happening in Vegas?
Did you know the Portland Pilots were
Of course the Pilots are there.
Didn't remember the Pilots.
But, they're going to have 18.
The West Coast Conference tonight's the championship, Gonzaga, St. Mary's.
They're going to have 18 games next year instead of 20.
Well, my question was going to be as a follow-up. Do you think that allows an opening during the Big 12 season to have a cross conference game like they did last
SEC?
Like an SEC Big 12 in the middle of conference season, just to get a break from the monotony?
Yeah, because then if you play 2 less, there ought to be a Saturday you can have one of those, and then a Wednesday where you don't play.
A Wednesday where you don't play.
Or something.
You'd have 1 week where you'd only have 1 game, and then another week where you'd mix in a game against another conference in the middle. So these conferences aren't 500 after the non-conference season. So Carl Ravitch could have more weight to his points
500
about this team is 54-54 since they started conference play.
How'd they end up doing it?
You throw that in there, now it throws a wrench into those conversations of just saying they're completely and they're 500 since since conference play. So I don't know if that would mean, because that adds some spice to the monotony of just conference season. So you get the non-conference.
They haven't said that, but I mean, I think they're always looking for ways to get good games.
Yeah.
But these coaches also want to schedule some wins.
That's true.
That's when you had 20 league games instead of 18. There's 2 games you can't just go try to schedule.
Well, just schedule Oklahoma State then.
Well, I guess you do get to play them.
You get to play them,
But put them in the non-con too.
Yeah, it does make it does mean that you're playing fewer teams, because you've got 16 teams, you got 15 teams you're playing against. With 20 games, I mean, you'd have a chance to play everybody, and then have some crossovers with some, multiple games. Now with 15 games, you'd play everybody, but then only 2 of them. I guess 3 would be a home and home with this. So you have fewer. You take fewer trips. You see fewer stadiums of opponents or arenas from opponents.
Well, the thing I haven't liked about any of this is the scheduling.
It's only 2, I guess.
It's just you really are, when you're determining who's your order of finish in the league, it is really dependent on who you happen to get in the schedule that year. I loved the double round robin in the Big 8, and in the Big 12 the last few years when they played them all twice. I think you really got a good feel for who is your champion and who's your 8th place team or whatever. And now, Kansas played Houston twice. Well, not everyone played Houston twice.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was a big fan of the '94 Big 8 double round robin.
That was a good one. Just win them all.
14-0. Why even worry about anything else? Just go 14-0.
But that I thought,
take that, Piatkowski.
And I thought that's just better. But when you have 18 teams, 16 teams, whatever in your league, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
Although they could do it and start it in December and not schedule their wins.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
These guys want to get wins. They want to make a tournament. And
was that an Eric Piatkowski poll right there?
Yeah, he missed the 3 at the last second to
I was there.
Missouri to go. They were 13-0. They were playing Nebraska, and
went all the way down, came out.
It was that was back when the 3-point line was right at the top of the key.
Yeah.
But it was like an NBA 3 back then as time expired, and it in and out.
By the way,
I believe they did win the Big 8 championship though. The postseason.
Yeah, it's not. It's about regular season, really. Why does anybody care about that? The real tournament started after the Big
That's
Eight
right.
tournament. You know
That
what
is
I mean?
wild. I remember him. I've not heard that name since I was a child. But the Polish Rifle. I remember him with the
You weren't
Clippers.
even born then, were
No,
you?
I was. I was young. I was like 6,
What year were you born? 92?
94.
You were born in 94?
Wow.
So you were
you-
like 4 then. You don't even know your
But
math.
you were born in
You
94?
said you were wrong on 92.
Yeah.
You were born in 94?
Yeah. You
Okay,
think I
so
look
you were
that
0.
old? Wow.
So you were
You're
0.
none.
So
no,
you were
I'm
0.
talking about. I remember the Clippers.
Oh,
That's what I was
oh,
saying. With the Clippers,
really?
I was 6. Yeah, with Katina Mobley.
Should I
and
feel
Elton
old
Brand
that I
and
was-
Chris Kaman and
No, I'm
But I
talking
was
about
the-
Nebraska.
Cord
with Cookie,
McGiddy.
I'm talking about Cookie Belcher and Eric Piatkowski.
yeah. My
Coached
point
by
was
Danny Nee.
I was
I
too
was down
young
there
to
covering
watch
that game. Do
live.
I feel old now? I was covering that game for
covered
Channel
that game.
4
Yeah,
as a professional journalist.
that's awesome.
I was impressed when you said Piatkowski. I remember, oh yeah, Eric Piatkowski for the Clippers.
I don't
I
remember
thought
him.
the Polish Rifle. I thought that was pretty impressive poll from me. But
That was
apparently,
pretty good. Well, you didn't pull it. Jason did.
Yeah.
I knew his first
remember
name
that,
and
I wouldn't have.
who he played for.
I had no idea he played for the Clippers. I knew he played for Nebraska. That's it. So
Yeah. So I would love to have the double round robin back, but they're not going to have that. The other thing that this missed us while we were paying attention to the Chiefs in the run for the Super Bowl. There's some new tournament coming out called the Crown Championship, and it's how you have it in front
Yeah,
of you.
I've got it
It's
in
12
front of me.
teams, 16 teams. How
it's
many teams?
it's going to be
You get 2 teams from
why
the
doesn't this
SEC,
just simply say how many teams are in?
2 teams from the SEC, the
16
Big Ten,
teams.
and the
16 of the best
Big
teams
12.
not in the NCAA tournament. So Big East, Big Ten, and Big 12 will take their top 2 remaining teams that did not make the NCAA tournament.
I believe
Oklahoma.
this sounds like it's jumping in front of
the NIT. And then the last 10 spots will consist of at-large bids from all conferences. And this is Fox's way of cutting into ESPN's relationship with the NIT and undercutting the NIT to try to be the big second tournament. But we've talked about how watered down the NIT is becoming too, because now the NCAA tournament's wanting to expand,
Yes.
which meant that there were less teams for the NIT, and so the NIT and ESPN was like, I don't know how long this is going to last.
What about the CBI? What about the CIT? What will happen?
Well, that's the thing is like, will teams? What if the NIT and the Crown both give a bid to the same team?
Well, it sounded to me like what Commissioner Yormark said is the
They're
top
now
2
contractually obligated to the Crown.
They're going to the Crown, and it's just
Okay.
it's all in Vegas. They'll get to go out there, and it won't be traveling around home games, nothing like. They're going to Vegas. They love Vegas. They're
Okay.
going to Vegas. So there's a
All
thing
neutral site games.
called the Crown.
Oh, Utah should be thrilled.
Sure. Well, I mean, this feels like K-State's probably in this mix right here
close.
for this.
Yeah.
I did not know about this. I
didn't
apologize for not knowing about this and having my ears perk up today when they talked about it.
What
But
about Oklahoma? Oklahoma might be in this too.
they're inside the real tournament right now.
You
but
think so?
And the SEC's not involved, I don't think. You said Big East, Big 10, Big 12?
Yeah, it was Big East, Big 10, Big 12.
Those are the ones who have Fox contracts
Yep.
right now.
Yep.
So SEC's not a Fox deal. They're an ESPN deal.
Yeah, and last year the NIT removed all of their automatic bids for conference regular season winners that didn't make the tournament.
Right.
That used to go to the small conferences. That if you finished your regular season,
And
hey,
didn't
you
win.
went to 17-3, and you're the number 1 seed, and you get upset you're not going to the tournament. NIT, that was an automatic
Yeah,
bid.
you made it
and
in.
They removed that to
Yeah.
have bigger
Bigger
schools in the NIT. So, I mean, I don't know what that. I mean, I just know that was a decision they made. How much does that affect the ratings for the NIT as opposed to any other? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I don't think. Do people care about Cinderellas in the NIT?
Yeah, I'm
Or-
guessing this is going to be on FS1,
Yeah.
and maybe the championship will be on Big Fox because they're putting a
Yeah.
lot of like sports. Like, we think of the NFL on there, but baseball has their Saturday games on Fox, and you're seeing more and more
Yeah.
other things end up on Fox. So I'm guessing the title will probably be on Fox, and I doubt if they'll try to put that on a day that the NCAA tournament's going on. I'm guessing it'd be a Wednesday night championship or something.
So the NIT now this year, their new structure is that the top 2 from the ACC and the SEC are guaranteed bids, and they will also have a participant from each of the 12 conferences are now guaranteed a spot in the NIT. So making it more, while taking away the automatic bid, they've now said there's an automatic bid for a team from every single conference. So it's probably going to be awarded. If the conference can choose, they probably award it to the regular season champion if they don't make the tournament.
Right.
If not, then you're runner-up. So the NIT was trying to make their tournament more accessible to smaller schools, where the Crown is trying to make their tournament bigger names.
Right.
With
and it's their
top two.
You know, it's their partners
Yeah.
in the big leagues that they have. So, yeah, it's
no idea. No idea. I know the CBI tried to push their way into the NIT, and then teams kept turning the bids down.
Oh, it's not till March 31st to April 6th, so they're going to wait.
They're going to take on that April 6th. That's the.
Is the transfer portal in? It's
Yes.
Saturday, April 6th. It's 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, transfer portal's been going on. That's why Jay Lucas is not going to coach with Duke in the postseason.
Oh, so this April 6th is Sunday, so they'll have this Sunday.
It's the day before the national title game.
It'll be in the in-between, and they do have they're playing on the 5th as well, but they're playing those early in the morning before the thing. So there'll be all the basketball for you.
That Sunday's seriously, Crown, that Sunday is dedicated for the D2 national championship between the national semifinal and the national championship game.
This is 2:30 Pacific.
It typically was known as the Northwest Invitational
Not
for a number of years. Not anymore since
that game's usually a little earlier. I'll bet this thing it doesn't start till 4:30 our time. I'll bet it's a little bit after that.
Yeah,
probably. But so it's not till then. The question is, will these players still be on these teams by then? You have to keep your rosters intact.
The transfer portal would have been open for a couple of weeks at that point.
You stick around and play in the Crown, boys.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
college sports are great.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we're seeing, like Jay Lucas, we see this in college football, but because it's a bowl, I don't know that we seen this in the college football playoff yet, where a team is in the college football playoff and their main assistant coach is leaving the team before the playoff starts, because Jay Lucas is the associate head coach, the right-hand man to John Shire, and he's not with the team anymore because he's taken over. He waited for the regular season to be done, and now he's the head coach of Miami. He's not with the team during the postseason run, so just leaving Duke as the tournament starts.
Basketball opens on the 24th. The transfer portal.
Yeah.
So if you're the 10th place team in the Big Ten and you're in this tournament,
2 weeks from yesterday,
will you be able to keep your guys engaged until the 31st?
2 weeks from yesterday, and that's why Jay Lucas is now the Miami head coach. Right. I can't stay with you until April 7th. I'm not going to be able to do it and play in a national title game with you, John, because all of the transfer portal kids are already gone if I'm going to build a team next year. So it's college basketball now.
Hey,
college
anyways,
sports.
Get fired up for the Crown.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Exactly. How long? Any comments from your Mark about how long this contract will continue to go in Kansas City?
It's 31.
31
through
right now.
31. That's what they said, and he said he doesn't, foresee anything changing that even afterwards. They really like it here. He said, I remember the first time I was ever around him was at Big 12 Media Days here 3 years ago or something, and I was like, this dude, he don't like Kansas City. I can tell right now. But by the time the basketball tournament came around and he experienced it, he is sold. He said it on the podium. I'm sold on Kansas City. I love Kansas City. It's perfect for this. Now, the Four Corner schools, they love their Vegas bit and all that stuff. So we did have Big 12 football media days in Vegas, and right now there's no big tournament out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Could I see something happen in 32 or 33? Maybe, but I don't know. It's a long ways away.
Right.
And by then,
there's going to be a dome in Kansas City by then.
Could be.
They got a dome.
Could be.
Could be a baseball stadium near here somewhere.
Could be in Kansas. Could be in Kansas City.
Yeah, sure.
Could be, I don't know, North Carolina.
It's North Carolina.
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Baseball stadium. I don't know.
Doubtful, but you never know.
Doubtful. But, it's so far away. Yeah. But when they announced that last year that they were going to stay here through 31, it was big for Kansas City, obviously, to get that done. And we've seen this tournament be in Oklahoma City and Dallas. It's just not the same. No. And I know today it's a little light down here right now. As we said, this maybe doesn't feel like it felt a few years ago. But this will, as we go throughout, we'll get going down here. And it's a perfect little atmosphere for it.
Tomorrow will be I went back and looked in one of the breaks to see about K-State, Iowa State, and Kansas playing on the same day. It happened the most recent times, 2019 and 2023. So there are only there's a chance they could play back-to-back days on the same day because they don't play each other. So it happened one day in 2019 and one day in 2023.
Cats get a win tonight. Let's have tomorrow be a
Cats
party.
Cats get a win.
Here.
This would be just the third day since second day since COVID.
Yeah.
That there would be a Big 12 tournament with the same day K-State, KU, and Iowa State playing. And so that could be a fun day down here at the Big 12 tournament and the Fan Fest. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Fact or fiction on the other side of the break. Hanging out with Todd Lebo. More Zone next. and certainly right across the street from where we are as the T-Mobile Center getting ready for Colorado and TCU, Game 2 of the Big 12 Tournament, Session number 1. And the Miller Lite Fan Fest going on today. Sports Radio 810 WHB presenting Miller Lite Fan Fest at KC Live Block, Power and Light District for the tournament. Pep rallies, watch parties, contests, live music, great food, and cold Miller Lite. It is brought to you by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, River Bluff Brewery, and Church of the Resurrection. It is time for a little fact or fiction, as Sterling will ask the questions, and I will, and Todd will, and Dylan will tell him if we think it is fact or fiction, because we're trying to guess what Sterling actually thinks. It is not our opinion.
In tune with him today.
Yeah,
Facts.
you guys are just mind-melding right there.
Facts.
That's right. All right, so since Todd is joining us as a guest today from across, he walked all the way across the street. Let's let him go first. Is that cool?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'll start with Lebo today.
Okay, let's do that.
Lebo,
Yeah.
K-State wins tonight. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
Dylan,
I'll go fact as well.
fact.
That's a fact. Yeah, I think K-State wins tonight. Let's go Wildcats.
You like to get us started off with one easy point.
Yeah,
at the
I
beginning
like
there.
to,
You like
typically.
to, typically.
I'm a
so.
nice gentleman.
There we go.
Fiction.
No, Dylan gets to go first
Okay.
on fact or fiction
Dylan.
if Sterling is a nice gentleman.
Fiction.
Dylan,
Fiction.
KU makes the Big 12 final.
Ooh. I'm going to go fiction as well on that one. So, go fiction.
Arizona, Tech.
Boy, they got to.
probably.
I mean, do they
Arizona.
get past Utah or UCF? You know what I mean? Then Arizona, then K-State on that Friday after K-State beats Arizona State, Baylor, and Tech. I don't know. They get to the final.
Yep.
I'm going to say no.
You
I'm
say
gonna
no.
Probably
I'm
not.
going to say no.
Probably not.
Say
We're,
probably
we're
not.
playing fact,
Fact or
probably
no?
not.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Fact or no. I'm going to say fiction.
I don't think so.
Fact or I don't think so. The answer was I don't think so.
That's right.
Darn it, I went with no.
You get
fiction.
credit. Partial credit.
I actually, I think KU makes a little bit of a run in the Big 12
Not that far,
tournament,
no.
but I don't think that far. Maybe you should have said Final Four of the Big 12. That didn't seem
It's 3 wins to get to the championship.
That didn't
game.
seem bullish enough.
Yeah.
It was a tough one.
We're all tied up for real.
They did not to get to buy. 2-2-2.
We'll go with Jason this time.
Great, let's do it.
Utah is my least favorite Big 12 school.
I'm going to say, well, hold on.
Ooh.
He's been on him today.
Yeah, I know he is, but you know what? There are 15 others. The odds are probably maybe not. So I'll say
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I'll say fiction.
That's fiction.
Yeah, I think there's one particular one out there. But Dylan, what do you think?
I'll go fiction.
Yeah, well,
It's fiction.
okay. If I am being an unbiased non-Mizzou alumni,
But you're not.
I would say it's fact actually because Utah's buns because of their complaints as they joined.
But
You should
I-
have said least favorite
non-Kansas,
non-Big Eight,
non-Kansas
non-Big Eight school.
yeah, so
I'm sorry,
we all got a point for that.
but it's fiction. It's so close though
Made
because
it-
Utah's
is it-
making it so hard.
Is it really that close?
Not
Why
really.
don't you like Utah?
Because they came into the Big 12 complaining a whole bunch. I mean, calm down, Utah. Grow up. Win some games before you try and make, we should be in Vegas. What are we doing going to Kansas City? Learn your states. Get some humbleness in
Head of
you.
Kansas
all
City
looked down the nose
Tourism,
at-
Sterling Holmes here, welcoming all of Utah
Yes.
to the Big
They
12
probably
tournament.
think they're going to come to these games. They'll be in Kansas. No.
It's
They're
in
in
Missouri. It's in Missouri.
That's right.
They don't know what
Well,
barbecue
they're not in
is.
Kansas
I mean,
anymore, so that you know.
That's right. They're
No.
not.
Look, if this is good
Utah.
enough for the World Cup, then it's
Yeah.
good enough for the Big 12 tournament.
But
Okay?
it's not good enough for Utah. It's got to be in Vegas.
3-3-3. We're all actually tied. Todd, we start with him here.
Springer.
That's Amish
That's a
people.
different deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Utah, they don't
the
get
Utah
out much.
Amish.
Amish people.
Let's go.
Lebo.
Yeah.
I think MJ Melendez is going to break out this year.
It's fiction.
I'm
You may hope.
gonna go fiction too. Yeah, I wanted to change it up, but I don't want to lose a point here.
Yeah, not so fast. No, I'm going to go fiction.
Fact or not so fast? It is fiction, but I hope so.
I hope so.
So
I hope
give
so.
Lebo an extra half point, please.
But Lebo said fiction.
We all
though.
said, we have it.
We all said
Also
fiction.
I just want an extra half point.
Four for
Yeah.
I'm
four.
going to end up at 12 and a half.
4-4-4. We start with Dylan on this one.
When it comes to Cougars, I like the BYU Cougars more than the Houston Cougars.
Let's see here. I didn't know if there was a third one.
Yeah.
I will go fiction because there wasn't a third one.
Yeah, I'm going to go fiction.
I'm going to say fact on this.
It's a fact. I like the
No
BYU
way.
Cougars more than the Houston Cougars. I do.
You like Salt Lake City Cougars better than Houston
Not Salt Lake,
Cougars?
There
Provo.
you go, Jason.
Provo,
well done.
sorry.
Yeah, likes that's
what I was
their
thinking.
mascot can really dance too. You ever see this
Really?
videos?
Yeah, it's a great mascot.
And multiple Cougars.
The
BYU.
the joke went over really well last year on
Polygamy.
stage. I said, "Where my Cougars at? Then where my BYU fans at?"
And,
You use it again?
I might use it again. It was good enough, I think, to run back twice.
You got 2 days to wait for that. They don't play till Thursday.
But I won't be here. I'll be at a bachelor party.
No, I'm
Also,
afraid
it's-
you're not going to the bachelor party. Hamburglar's going to have to wait.
Yes.
He's not going to this one.
That's right.
He's not invited?
Cheeseburger's going to
Different group.
Where's Jansen?
That's cool. Jansen's not going either. All right, boys.
We'll start with me on
We'll
this
start
one.
with Jason Anderson. Missouri will end up as a 7 seed. That's where they're currently at, according
wow.
to Joe Lenardi.
I'm going to say fiction on that.
Higher. Fiction.
Yeah, it
Fiction?
depends on tournament's always confusing when you say higher or lower seed.
Yeah.
What's a higher seed? What's a lower seed? We all said fiction.
Yeah, it's fiction. I thought someone. Yeah, I think they get a 6 still.
fabrication.
But I do think 7 is probably the second most likely possibility now.
Interesting.
I really hope they get a. I think they'll win a game or two in the SEC.
They'll get themselves hopefully
That's
they'll get
6.
6. Yeah.
That's a pretty big
I think
difference.
they should probably. I think they should knock off Mississippi State or LSU. I mean, but things that they should do versus what they are doing are completely
Fact, or
different.
probably should.
We'll start with Todd.
Lebo. I actually like Daniel Jones going to the Colts.
I like you
It's
might
not
like
his
it
name,
more.
by the way.
Dylan said Indiana Jones.
Yes,
That's
Indiana
not his name
Jones, so-
anymore. So.
I like Daniel Indiana Jones going to the Colts.
He's gone from Danny Dimes to Indiana Jones. That's great.
I don't know how you could even have an opinion on this. I'm going to say pass.
Pass,
I'll
fail?
say you think it's fact.
I'll say pass fail. On
You
this
think it's fact.
one. All right, Dylan now.
It just does not register with me.
Because anyone's better than Anthony Richardson, I'll go fact. Wait, you said that's a good move?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll go fact.
I'm just going to go opposite theory. I'll go fiction.
The answer was pass.
Yeah. It's like the answer is who cares?
Todd got right.
It actually is fiction.
Yes.
I don't get it. If you're going to go young, go Richardson. If you're going to go bad, go Richardson because he's already on your team. So
Either way, go
He's already under contract.
why bring in bad?
that's
Get
funny.
Gardner Minshew back.
We'll go with Dylan this time.
6 to 5. We're tied. Dylan leads.
Dylan,
us off.
Jalen Moore will grade out as a top 15 left tackle next year.
Fiction.
Fiction.
Yeah, fiction. I don't think there's any reason to think that.
I have it as a fact.
Oh wow.
Number 15?
I think he's 14 or
14,
15.
14 or
yeah.
15? We'll take it.
I think because I think he grades out it's average. I think he grades out as an average left tackle.
By the way, I'll settle out of court right now for it.
I would too.
That's number 15.
Sign
average,
me up.
Middle of the pack left tackle.
What did they get
Yes.
last year at left tackle if you add it all together? What
I
position
think
were they in?
they're 58th.
Out of 16?
There were
32,
141
32.
tackles that played, but we're not using that. We're using starting. We got to have some caveats here.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. I'll lead off this one. It's 6 to 5 still tied.
Jason.
Yep.
I don't really understand the Christian Fulton signing. I think it's too expensive.
That is absolutely fiction. I think you are in love with this signing. I think it's one of your favorite signings of the entire offseason. I'm going to say big time
I
fiction.
missed your conversation earlier. I'm going to follow Jason.
That's
Say
smart.
whatever he said.
Yeah, I'll go
Smart.
fiction
He's
as
got
well.
a read on it.
You didn't hear the last part where he said it's too expensive?
No, I don't.
It's still fiction. I don't care. Christian Fulton, baby. He makes sense, dog. He doesn't just make sense. He makes dollars because he's going to make this defense the money down.
Well,
Gonna
usually
be
if it don't make dollars,
huge.
it don't make sense.
But it's the opposite.
yeah, I know.
I'm all in on Christian Fulton.
Love it.
I've this is one of my favorite signings that the Chiefs have done.
Ever.
7
Ever.
to 6.
Not really, but
We're
What will he
tied.
rate as a left tackle?
better than me. All right, we'll go with Lebo this time. Nikola Jokic should win his 4th MVP this year.
I think it's a fiction. I got SGA on this one.
Who'd you say?
Dylan. Nikola Jokic wins his 4th MVP this
yeah,
year.
Todd, I'll go with him. Fiction.
It's fiction. It's LeBron. So yeah, go ahead.
It's a fact.
Oh,
you guys
gosh,
are
you guys are so
dumb.
stupid.
the guy averaging a triple-double
Oh,
this
he's straight.
year.
I know.
Oh,
I
cool.
love him.
Yeah. Such a
He's
difficult
insanely
task
good.
in today's NBA. You know,
I know, right?
Oh, yeah, how many guys are doing it?
Russell Westbrook did
No.
it for a while.
No. How many guys are doing it right now?
How many guys who are
I would love to know.
No, I'm sure there's not a lot, but again,
700 pounds.
everyone's dropping 50.
How many
When you have
guys-
Peyton
Do
Pritchard
it.
dropping 50 burgers,
That's a good point, yeah.
You know,
Nicola
not a
ate
lot
40,
of
by the
defense.
way. You don't need to. It was a 40 one time.
Oh.
You don't need to tell me that a guy who's averaging 28.9, 13 rebounds, 10.5 assists, 57.7% from the field, 43% from three, 80% from the free throw line. His per and win shares are absurd. Historically,
He's
the greatest
he's
of all time.
basically
I love
the
him.
analytics people's god. So I understand that
Well,
they're
they
all
also
the-
won a
yes,
championship,
right.
Dylan. Settle down
I
on these
know.
Do
numbers.
it.
I know.
You know what? Do it
The
at
big-
40. Do
the
it at
big
40 years
tipper.
old. Then talk to me. Do
I
it
agree,
as a 40-year-old.
Jason.
then
I
talk
agree
to
with
me.
you. To be honest.
Thank you.
My goodness.
Thank you, Dylan. You know what? Just for that, we'll start with Dylan here.
He'll be rocking with horses when he's 40. Dylan, I am fairly indifferent on the Elijah Mitchell signing.
It's an interesting way.
That's a
of
good
presenting it.
question. I think you predicted it, didn't you? Or you and Jason also, you kind of like co-predicted
Well, it was
it.
a name we threw out as a
Yes,
possibility
that's
that reminded us of Jarek McKinnon for a couple things, mainly injured 49er.
That's right.
Hurt
that's right.
Niner.
I'll go.
Injured 49er.
You said you don't. You're indifferent on it. I'll go fiction with that.
Fairly indifferent.
I'll go
Fairly
fiction.
indifferent.
I think I'm going to lean fact that he's fairly indifferent.
I'm going to
on
fact that one.
Yeah,
Fairly.
it's a fact.
Oh,
I'm actually indifferent on
That's
that
how
in
I am
general.
about Daniel
Yeah.
Jones.
This does nothing to me. I hope he's great, but he's been injured all of his entire NFL career. He's been injured in college.
Like hamstring surgery, too, not just
and of course, he was really good when running behind the 49ers offensive line.
he's running behind him again. One of them.
One of
That's
them,
right.
yeah. Is Aaron Banks coming over here too? We'll find out.
Trent Williams.
Yeah, we'll
But
see. I hope it is.
I'm indifferent on this one. This did not
5 years
move.
ago.
This did
Dominic
not
Puny.
move the needle for me. The needle was not moved.
No.
All right, last one. It's tied 8 to 6.
Anderson.
Yep.
I will come back from Louisville with at least 3 new bottles of bourbon.
Fact.
You're not gonna, is this a golf trip or just bachelor
Bachelor
party?
party.
Bachelor party.
Because you're going to lose whatever golf there was.
But they
I'm
will
just, I'm just
golf.
pointing it.
We
I want that out there. Whatever you say you're going to do, you're going to lose.
we are golfing one
But
day.
3, that's a fact.
Yeah, you
I'll be
said-
disappointed if you don't.
You said
at
at
least
least,
three.
so I can't say fiction more, like 4 or 5. So
No, yeah,
I'll
three.
go
I said
fact.
at least.
3 to a billion.
Yeah.
Right, it just that's the no cap there.
You
so.
flying or driving?
Ooh,
We're
that's a good
driving.
question.
Oh,
Oh, Evo.
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep.
No
I said
question.
too
He'll
low.
start the trip
Over.
with 3.
How
many does
He'll
he-
pick up 3
How
on
many
the
does
way.
he return?
He'll pick up 3 on the way into Louisville for the bachelor party.
how-
Dylan, over was actually the correct answer. Give him 2 points.
Wow, Dylan gets 2 points. Nobody else gets a point. It's 8 to 8.
We're all tied.
You bring some back for us, huh?
You gonna throw some cash
Just
my
a little,
way?
That's a present for me.
You
Yeah,
gonna make
what's that?
my pockets heavier? Then I'll lighten them. I can turn $100 into 50 so easy for you.
I know you can. You're really good at that.
It's like, hey, son, do you want this one $10 bill or these 3 $1 bills? What's smarter? How you get 3 of something rather than 1?
Sign me up.
Yes. All right. What's the tiebreaker? Because we're tied at 9 to 7.
Well, in honor of the Big 12 basketball championship happening right here in our backyard of Kansas City,
Fact.
what are Sterling's top 5 favorite Big 12 cities? And some of these are hypotheticals because I've not been to all.
These are
all
current
So
ones.
Utah won.
current ones,
okay.
right?
Current. Utah's not a city, Dylan.
Salt Lake City.
Jeez.
It's the tiebreaker. Write
dump-
it down.
dump
Hey, hey! By the way, it is not school. Has
It's the
nothing to
city.
do with. It's just the city.
Yeah, that's
City.
what I did. So thanks, Sterling, for covering me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utah's still not a city.
In the city,
was-
lady.
you know,
look
I was
pretty.
thinking of the
guys tell
college
jokes so they
Utah.
can seem witty. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll do the tiebreaker since we're tied 9 to 7 in fact or fiction. The top 5 Big 12 cities
According
for
to Sterling.
Sterling Holmes. More zone next.
All right.
news out of the NFL. We'll tell you that before we wrap up the show, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs have signed Christian Fulton. If you did not hear that earlier in the 11 o'clock hour, the now will be sixth-year cornerback out of LSU. First 4 years with Tennessee. Last year played with the Chargers, and now he will play with the Kansas City Chiefs. 2 years, $20 million, 15 of that guaranteed for Christian Fulton joining the Chiefs as a cornerback. So we've got a tiebreaker here for Fact or Fiction because we were all tied up at 9 to 9 to 7. So tiebreaker.
It was 8 to 8 because Dylan got over.
Yeah,
that was
sure,
actually
he got
the
over.
real.
He got more.
In Fact or Fiction,
It's a true
he said
tie,
over.
but I think I had a half on one, so I don't think we're
I
tied.
think I kind of got
Let's
a
go
half
ahead and play
on
the
one as well.
tiebreaker, though.
Let's do it
Just in
anyway.
case.
And we'll just play the tiebreaker. So your top 5 Big 12 cities, regardless of what school is in that city.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's an important distinction.
I'm going to these aren't in really or I think the order that I would put these in, I would put Tempe. I think you played golf out there maybe.
So you said Tempe?
Yeah.
Tempe was number 1.
I had Tempe number 1.
I have been there one time, and it was electric. That was
Boogie, woogie,
before I was
woogie.
21.
Did you watch Brock
I was
Osweiler?
21, according to some identification. Got kicked out of a casino.
Good job.
There one time.
Dylan,
'cause I
did
was
you have
not
Tempe
21,
number 1?
And I didn't know you could do that. I thought it was a like a casino. You know,
Yeah.
like a was it Indian
18 dinner?
casino? We can get it for 18.
Yeah.
It's called like Talking Stick. So I just assumed, I can go in here because it's an Indian casino. Turns out it wasn't. I got kicked out.
Good
Makes
job.
sense.
Did you have that one?
Dylan, did you have
Dylan?
Tempe?
Tempe was 3. I had Salt Lake City as 1, so no.
I don't think he's got
Salt Lake City is 3. Utah.
No way.
Yeah,
Damn
I've always wanted to go there.
I got Boulder on my list.
I put Boulder on my list as well.
Boulder is not on this
Oh, I
list.
put Boulder instead of Salt Lake City.
I'm
I
a
scratched
rock
out
guy.
Salt Lake City.
Now, I
Boulder
listen.
guy.
I put Manhattan on there
Manhattan.
Manhattan
because
is
your
on there.
your wife is a K-Stater,
Yeah,
right?
I
I've
put
been there.
Manhattan number 2 behind
would-
Tempe.
I went to Manhattan was 5.
Oh well,
They wasn't really
that's-
in order,
So
but
you,
You
don't
just
like,
did
was
that to
order.
be nice.
so you don't like your wife.
I love my wife.
So you don't like the in-laws and where
I
they went
like
to college.
Manhattan.
You
It's
like
just
nothing
a lot
about
of,
their past.
It's a lot of limestone. It's a lot of.
You feel like you've
one
been to
certain
Stillwater
color.
at some point?
I
put
have,
that down there.
but I don't remember when. I would have been a tyke.
Okay.
It was not on the list.
All right, I put it on there just because I figured you guys might have gone down there to some country bars or something.
No, it just missed the cut.
Okay, didn't make
It did. Sorry, Mick. It just missed the cut.
Who'd you have on
I do
there?
like
Jason?
Manhattan. Though. Manhattan's a fun city.
I listed Lawrence on there too, since it's a quick trip over there, and you said regardless of school.
I said
you
no.
made a point to say regardless of school.
Yeah.
It made my number 5
Same.
No,
there.
No, thank
No,
you.
I had no
Yes.
Lawrence. I
Yeah.
get a bonus point for knowing that he
Should have
was
been
not putting
should have
that
been
on there.
smart enough.
Larry wasn't. Still
Even though he led us in the
Yeah.
direction of saying Lawrence would, because regardless of school, it's whatever city.
I
It's
was
that-
Utah, Salt Lake City, man. Because I've always wanted to go to Salt
what
Lake
about
City.
Provo?
That was not on the list.
He's not on my list either.
I was choosing between Houston and Cincinnati, and I put Houston down.
Both missed.
Okay.
I actually
got
like
2.
Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a fun city, even though the football team is a bunch of shenanigans.
You just
Those
like it
fans-
because of the chili.
Oh, you watch your mouth, sir. It's pretty cool how it's all on the river right there. It's kind of nice.
So that's my list. I didn't have it.
I put in Dallas
for Fort Worth.
Ooh, that's a
yeah,
good
for
one.
Fort Worth, Dallas, because you like the NBA.
Fort Worth is there for TCU.
You made it.
That's what
Yeah,
I was.
that's a good one,
TCU,
Jason.
Dallas, Fort Worth for TCU.
TCU Fort Worth was 4th.
I didn't have that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had that
You
one.
guys are missed on number 2.
Ames?
You guys, this was a ruse the whole time, boys.
You knew about Orlando.
UCF,
Ah.
Orange County, Florida. It's unincorporated. UCF, unincorporated Central Florida, baby.
No laws.
No laws.
Just right.
I'm more a fan of Kids Incorporated. KIDS. Kids Incorporated.
Tempe, number 1.
You tricked us.
Unincorporated Central Florida, Orange County, Florida, number 2. Salt Lake City, number 3. Fort Worth/Dallas, TCU, number 4. Manhattan, number 5.
Never been to Boulder. I'd like to go there.
I went there
I'm
for
a rock guy,
Grateful
not a
Dead.
Boulder
It was
guy.
pretty
So
awesome.
you've got 2 teams from the Big 12, TCU and K-State, out of your top 5 cities.
Arizona State, UCF, and Utah,
The new ones.
The new ones.
Newbies.
Well, because I've not been there, I guess.
Yeah.
I went to. I like Florida. Big
Have you ever
Florida
been
guy.
to Ames?
I have not been to Ames.
Really?
I've been to Iowa, but not Ames.
Been to Lawrence?
I've been to Lawrence many times.
I think Todd wins.
Not.
I only got 2, but I'll take the win.
Oh.
I think you got 2, didn't you? You got 3 at Fort Worth too.
Well, I
didn't
had
Fort Worth.
Dallas, I had Boulder, I had Tempe, and I had Lawrence and Manhattan.
Oh, yeah, Manhattan, you had 3. Only had 2.
Dylan, I feel like Dylan won for putting up with these shenanigans. So, Dylan, congratulations.
He had the line of the day.
Then
so
I win
far.
every
Indiana
day,
Jones.
so,
It's good.
no.
Indiana Jones gives them the tiebreaker. Right
Indiana
there.
Jones gives you the tiebreaker, Dylan.
That's right. That is right.
That was a bonus
Yes,
question.
no doubt about that. Todd,
I have not been to UCF.
what's your favorite Big 12 city?
To these Big 12 cities. Listen, Lawrence is a fun town. Manhattan's a fun town. I think Ames is cool. I've been there. Stillwater's fine. I've been to Stillwater. Waco, there's 2 bars. They're both good.
I need more than 2 bars, though. You know this about me.
I have been to Tempe before. Tempe's fine. I've never been out there for a sporting event. I've never been to Salt Lake City or Provo other than to be at the airport and for a changeover. I would like to go out there.
Tempe's
Corey
fun,
says
dude.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, Corey loves it there.
So I do need to check that
Believe
out.
me,
at
I've
some
tried
point.
to talk him into coming back and be a part of the show a lot, but
Nah, he says no.
Bummer, that hurts. No wonder you can't keep a co-host over here.
Oh, you're the one
Just
going on
kicking 'em
vacation.
yeah,
I'm going to the bachelor party. So,
yeah,
bourbon needs to be drank.
Are they?
Golf balls need
How
to
many
be
guys
sliced.
you got left who are bachelors?
yeah, for real.
know.
dude.
Are we running out of them?
What are you 30 now?
You're one of the last ones, weren't you?
I'm 30.
Who's
I'm,
this one for?
I'm a man. I'm 30. Cody. My boy from Cody.
Cody.
Congrats, dog.
Congrats,
You
Cody.
should be graduating to
K-Stater.
these baby showers. That's what
Oh,
you should be
boy.
graduating to. Thank you.
Why would
Dylan.
I shower a
Program next.
baby?